In the year 2100, scientific research made tremendous progress. The simulation world of God's domain was born as a result. He was surprised when he suddenly received a notification that his God's domain account had been deleted. Before he could understand what was going on, a termination contract was thrown directly onto the table. The three people from the company came to force him to sign it. Shai Feng remained silent, as if he had no strength left. I sacrificed so much for the game, helping Shadow reach the pinnacle. Thanks to the Shadow Guild, Manhwa also became a world-class financial conglomerate. Just because I opposed merging Shadow with another guild, you're deleting my account. And now you're telling me to go to the finance department to settle my salary. They remained arrogant, saying, "We'll give you 5 million credit points and a villa to live in for the rest of your life." The leader even insulted him, saying, "A person should know when to be content." Now, in the villa under Shai Feng's name, he looked no different from a lonely old wolf, quietly soothing his pain in a place that cost him his career. It truly wasn't worth it. Shai Feng blamed himself with each bottle of alcohol, going through one after another, unable to drink away the anger in his heart. He still couldn't accept their ungrateful treatment of a big hero like him. "I swear, I will never forgive them. You kept drinking bottle after bottle, not knowing how much alcohol you had consumed, slowly sinking into a drunken haze. After a while, you only woke up when you heard the sound of your phone ringing." Shai Feng drowsily opened his phone, his whole body aching, thinking to himself, "I shouldn't have drunk so much yesterday." The phone screen displayed the name Haizi calling, and Shai Feng wondered, "What does that kid want from me?" He picked up the phone and immediately asked, "Hello, why are you calling?" The voice on the other end introduced itself, "Brother Feng, it's Haizi here. Today is the day Shadow is recruiting people from the school." Thinking that the alcohol still clouded his mind, Shai Feng scratched his head and asked, "Are you kidding me? Didn't I just get fired by Shadow?" Suddenly, something felt off, and he quickly ran to the mirror. "What is this?" The phone fell to the floor, but Haizi's voice could still be heard. "Fired? What are you talking about, Brother Feng? How much did you drink last night?" Looking at his reflection in the mirror, Shai Feng couldn't believe what he saw. It was himself, but 10 years younger. When he didn't respond, Haizi called his name loudly. Ignoring the voice, Shai Feng hurriedly ran to check the phone to confirm the date. It was now April 19th, 2029. Although shocked, he was able to confirm, "I've traveled back 10 years, to the time when God's domain had just been released." You immediately got dressed and ran straight to school. Upon entering the school gate, you silently told yourself, "Heaven has given me a second chance. Shadow and those who betrayed me, just wait." From a distance, Haizi saw Shai Feng arrive and immediately ran over. "Brother Feng, you're finally here. Let's go register." Suddenly noticing that Shai Feng wasn't as enthusiastic as before, Haizi asked, "Brother Feng, what's wrong with you? Let's go already." But this time, Shai Feng told Haizi that he had no intention of participating and had a different plan, to set up his own studio. Haizi was stunned by this excessive confidence. Shai Feng gazed into the distance, his eyes deep in thought. In the next 10 years, Haizi's management skills will greatly help the development of the studio. But Haizi joined Shadow to ease his family's financial burden. I need to change his way of thinking. Seeing Shai Feng standing motionless, Haizi was shocked. "Brother Feng, the gaming equipment, the venue, and the salaries. Just the initial capital alone requires 78,000. Shai Feng insisted. "Joining Shadow means signing a contract that sells your soul to them. I don't want to be held back anymore." Haizi looked helpless. "Brother Feng, I also want to open a studio with you. But right now, even if we pool our money together, we can't even buy one piece of equipment." Seeing his younger brother's concern, Shai Feng patted him on the shoulder to reassure him. "Don't worry about the equipment. God's domain has a trial offer for students. As long as you have a student ID, you can get equipment to try for 10 days. Haizi remained thoughtful. 10 days, huh? In the game, what can you really accomplish in 10 days? Shai Feng confidently replied, 10 days is enough. Leave the money matters to me. Immediately afterward, he went to the convenience store to buy a pile of snacks and drinks, ready for a hardcore session. Upon returning home, Shai Feng made the effort to shamelessly borrow a helmet and gloves that would connect him to the game for the next 10 days, before heading back into that world. After preparing himself mentally, Shai Feng loudly declared, God's domain, here I come. He put on the helmet and excitedly paved the way for a fresh future. At that moment, Shai Fang successfully connected to the game, God's domain, and was immediately teleported to an arena on the island. As he walked, he was surprised, thinking to himself, the login interface feels different from before. He had forgotten that the initial interface had been designed this way from the start. Stepping onto the arena platform, an angel suddenly materialized, coating herself before descending to where he stood. She flashed a friendly smile and introduced herself. Welcome, adventurer. Welcome to God's domain. I am the guiding angel, Gabriel. She immediately displayed the available professions in the game. For warriors, we have Shield Warrior, Guardian Knight, and Berserker. Weapon Specialist includes Swordsman, Assassin, and Ranger. Healers are available for Cleric, and for Druids, there's the Drakel. Finally, for the most favored Druids, there are Elementalist, Summoner, and Cursemancer. After Shai Fang had gone through everything, Gabriel instructed him. Now I will explain to you the 4 classifications of the 12 main classes here in the God's domain. Afterward, I want you to choose the class you like the most from them. Shai Fang didn't think much and chose the Swordsman class, following his previous path. Gabriel was overjoyed and praised him. Class selection completed. Please choose a name for your character. If you're continuing from your past life, Shai Fang decided to stick with his old name, Yi Fang. After successfully setting the name, the system suggested changing his appearance. Shai Fang looked at the screen and thought, just in case, I should change my appearance a bit to avoid others discovering my true identity. After some struggle with the appearance changes, Gabriel led him to choose a birthplace in the Star Moon Kingdom. As far as he remembered, White River City was the 5th largest city in the kingdom, with a decent geographic location and promising development prospects. Shai Fang suddenly remembered something extremely important. In the early stages, he could avoid the major guild conflicts and quietly develop. Without hesitation, he selected White River City as his destination. Gabriel immediately clapped and congratulated him. You decided on the city. In 3 seconds, you will be transported there. I wish you a pleasant experience. Starting countdown. 3, 2, 1. Shai Fang was immediately encoded and transferred via data bridge. After a moment, he was successfully transported to White River City with an entirely new appearance. Looking around, he suddenly remembered the familiar feeling. As expected, it's still Red Leaf Town. Not only that, but now many players had reached a certain level and were interacting with NPCs in this world. However, the majority were still a mix of new players seeking help and others expressing frustration with the game. Where's the newbie quest? This world is so boring. Do you want to go hunt monsters together? Shai Fang paid no attention to these matters. First, he opened his status screen and saw 4 free attribute points. Each time a player leveled up, they would receive 4 free attribute points along with the increase in their level. How players distributed these points varied, which led to different playstyles. Shai Fang recalled his previous life when playing as a swordsman. He had used those 4 points to increase strength, prioritizing maximum damage output. But this time, he had a different approach. He decided to allocate all 4 points into agility, raising it from 3 to 7. Shai Fang thought to himself, for a melee class, boosting agility early on is the best choice. Agility increases movement speed and attack speed, which is incredibly helpful for newbie melee players. Unfortunately, it wasn't until much later that someone finally figured out this trick. He sighed in disappointment. Suddenly, the player Black Cloud invited him to a video call. Hyde Z, playing as that character, greeted him. Hey Fang, I chose Summoner. I've teleported to Moonfall Town. Where are you? Shai Fang replied, you're in Red Leaf Town, which isn't too far from Moonfall Town. Now, head to Red Leaf Town, and I'll help you level up. Hyde Z was confused upon hearing this, and when he opened the map, he became discouraged. Red Leaf Town. The map shows it'll take me 7 hours to get there. Besides, everyone here is also grinding to level up. In just 7 hours, there will be more people ahead of me. Shai Fang wasn't particularly surprised, but while they were walking and talking, he suddenly brought up their childhood goal, which is why he asked, Hyde Z, what about the possibility of making money from leveling up and starting your own organization? Hyde Z, worried, replied, it doesn't seem like it would work too well. Knowing he would get such a response, Shai Fang then mentioned, the only quest. Hyde Z's eyes lit up. The only quest? You mean the top-tier quest among all the hidden unique quests in the entire server? Once it's completed, it disappears, right? And the rewards are incredibly generous. It's like doing a quest that saves you 10 years of hard work. Suddenly, Shai Feng stopped in front of a gloomy village. A group of beggars saw him, and immediately rushed out, sticking out their tongues like sickly creatures. Shai Feng responded by drawing his sword. He didn't forget to remind Haizi that there was such a quest in Red Leaf Town. After the beggars fled in fear, Shai Feng sheathed his sword and turned to Haizi. So, do you still want to stay in Moonfall Town and level up by yourself? But it's a 7-hour trip. By the time you get there, the full moon will be a crescent. But hey, Haizi. Haizi said, how do you know so much? Did you cling to someone's leg? Play the beta version. And that's how you know all this? Shai Feng smiled. Uncle, just head to Red Leaf Town. I'll finish my task, and then take you up a level. The speed will definitely be faster than an ordinary person. At that moment, Shai Feng noticed a beggar sitting there in a daze. He approached and asked if there was anything he could help with. The beggar, having not eaten for 5 days, asked for some food to survive. Shai Feng bluntly rejected his request. However, he remembered that if he said a specific line to an NPC, it would trigger a unique quest. So he asked the beggar to make another suggestion, as long as there was an appropriate price to pay. The beggar suddenly became filled with murderous intent, his heart filled with hatred, and arrogantly said, I want you to deal with the mayor of Red Leaf Town, named Cruz. Triggering the unique quest, Shai Feng had only 1 minute to confirm the quest, and without hesitation, he immediately chose to accept it. A few hours later, at the town hall in the main hall, dozens of players were lined up to be rewarded by Cruz. A beginner, having gained a small amount of experience, praised the game enthusiastically. Luckily, the mayor's beginner quest helped me earn money and experience quickly and easily. Shai Feng turned his gaze towards Cruz, level 15 with 2400 HP and 1500 MP. Cruz seemed stunned. Next adventurer, please. Shai Feng suddenly took out an apple and took a big bite. He knew that with his current health and mana, even if there were 100 of him, he still wouldn't be able to defeat the village chief. But Shai Feng still decided to go all in and threw a tomato at his face. The other players, after watching this, were left speechless, suddenly feeling a chill down their spines. Cruz gritted his teeth in anger and slammed the table and chairs. The system warned. Cruz's favorability has decreased. Shai Feng and him are now enemies. Cruz, enraged, looked at Shai Feng, quickly lifted his heavy body into the air. Damn bug, I'll send you straight to hell. Shai Feng smiled and raised his sword, thinking, where are the other players? Get ready. Say goodbye to the village chief of Red Leaf Town. 15 minutes earlier, after receiving the only mission from the Anxin NPC, Shai Feng made his way to the mayor's office. Dozens of new players who passed by looked at him curiously, wondering if he was looking for something or had some kind of scheme in mind. When Shai Feng arrived at the main hall, he was surprised to see a long line waiting just to accept the newbie mission. He realized that if things continued like this, everything would be doomed. Shai Feng had no choice but to apologize and skip ahead of the long line. First, he whistled, and the gray-haired man turned to look at him with an irritated expression. Hey newbie, if you don't want to anger anyone, just go to the back and queue up. Shai Feng smirked and replied, thanks for the reminder, but don't worry, I'm not here to take the mission. Let me give you a piece of advice, don't waste any more time here. Go somewhere else to take the mission. Just because he trusted those who came before him, the gray-haired man had resolutely pushed him away out of fear of being deceived. So he had firmly decided to stay here. Shai Feng spoke up and revealed, now I'll show you a way. Go to the wilderness area and hunt monsters. It's a better future than just waiting here. When they arrived, recalling the moment when hundreds of players were chasing after a wild boar, the gray-haired man sighed. The wilderness area is full of players. I can't compete with others. It's better to stay here and take on some small quests. Upon hearing this, Shai Feng approached him and whispered, there's a place with few monsters, and their spawn rate is slow, so you can handle it alone, and the efficiency will be several times higher than in the crowded monster zones. The gray-haired man seemed enlightened, and with a serious expression, he requested, Big brother, if there's such a good place, you have to take your brothers there. Thinking it would be given for free, he was surprised when Shai Feng asked for a friendly price of 20 copper coins. The gray-haired man said, "This really feels like a scam, because after creating a character, everyone only gets 10 copper coins. How about you give me 10 copper coins first, and I'll send you the location. If it's real, you can give me 10 more copper coins. I think you're not a bad person, so I'm telling you this. But if you don't trust me, then forget it." Shifeng sighed. After gaining his trust, the transaction was successful. Shifeng finally gathered enough money to buy a weapon to defeat the village chief. He went to a fruit stall and bought a tomato for 1 gold coin. 2 newbie girls happened to pass by, and seeing him spend his money on tomatoes, they couldn't help but laugh. "I can't believe someone would waste their only 10 copper coins on vegetables. He's really stupid." Just by looking at him, it's clear he's never played a game before. Little did the two of them know, that was the weapon Shifeng used to finish off Town Chief Cruz. Back at the town hall, after a rookie had received his rewards from Cruz, Shifeng confidently cut in line and stepped up to face Cruz. He bit into a tomato, then threw the rest of it straight into his face. But that wasn't enough. With great determination, he charged forward and said, "You bald-headed, fat bastard, you piece of trash. You don't deserve to be the town chief." The other rookies were deeply moved by the boldness of Shifeng's actions. Cruz, fuming, wiped the tomato off his face and glared at Shifeng. "Adventurer, what do you think you're doing?" This caused his favorability towards Shifeng to drop to 0, but Shifeng didn't care. He threw another tomato right at Cruz's face. He continued to throw a few more without hesitation. The rookies standing nearby were astonished. They never thought they would witness a player openly attack an NPC. It seemed that Shifeng wasn't afraid of being imprisoned to death. Humiliated by the constant barrage, Cruz was infuriated. The system announced that the relationship between Shifeng and Cruz had turned hostile. Shifeng wasn't scared at all. In fact, he even smiled and said, "The real show is about to begin." Cruz slammed his fist on the table and roared, his voice echoing through the entire town hall. A dangerous signal appeared before Shifeng. By the time he realized the threat, he quickly drew his beginner's sword to block Cruz's strike. Luckily, the sword was able to deflect the blow, and Shifeng only lost 84 health points. Other new players stood by and admired this young man. "I can't believe there's someone who can block this attack using just a beginner's sword." Suddenly, Cruz's face twisted into a different form. His tail sprouted, and sharp claws emerged from his fingers. He seemed to transform into a demon, growling roughly at Shifeng. "You bastard, get out of here." The players present were utterly shocked. "I never expected the town chief to be a werewolf all this time." Suddenly, Shifeng pushed the werewolf Cruz toward the group of guards at the front of the town hall. Sensing the imminent danger, the NPC guards immediately noticed. "An evil creature is attacking. Protect the town." Shifeng smiled at this scene, knowing, if I attacked Cruz directly, the guards would definitely kill me, so I bought tomatoes. While tomatoes don't deal damage, they're enough to lower his favorability towards me, leading to this initiative to attack. As long as I can withstand Cruz's first strike, I can force him to revert to his werewolf form. From there, the guards won't stand idly by, and will immediately take action against the evil forces. Since everything is already settled, I'll take my leave, and leave the town chief to the guards. Other players saw the guards attacking the town chief fiercely, and immediately got an idea. They exchanged looks, instantly understanding each other. Seizing the opportunity, they rallied to help the guards form a defensive line, while the mages would handle the long-range damage. The town chief, Cruz, was so focused on fighting the guards that he didn't notice the fireball in front of him and carelessly took the damage. When the blood level was nearly at its lowest, a player used a spear and finished him off right then and there. Town leader Cruz was defeated, but the other players didn't receive any experience points, let alone the items on Cruz's body. Suddenly, they remembered Shifeng, the one who had thrown the tomato, and quickly ran off to find him. Meanwhile, Shifeng was in a dark alley, carrying the town leader's emblem he had just collected. He returned to the spot where the beggar had been. Shifeng handed the emblem to him and couldn't help but make a guess. The beggar, overjoyed, said, "Thank you. Truly, thank you. My wish has now been fulfilled." After receiving the valuable item, the beggar also offered a chest filled with various other items. Shifeng gladly accepted. In addition, since he had completed Sherlock's only request, he received 2,000 experience points, 20 luxury jewelry boxes, and many points of free mastery. In his past life, he had never received such generous rewards, so he thought that it was because he had just reached a new level that such a treatment was being offered. But what intrigued him the most was the precious item inside the box, which contained all sorts of items. Shai Feng eagerly opened it, as though unwrapping a mysterious gift. A burst of light suddenly flashed, and before him appeared a dark steel grade ring of gravity, with an added strength of 2, agility of 1, and endurance of 1. Not only that, but he also gained the skill Unleash Gravity, which greatly reduces the gravitational pull on the wearer, making their body as light as a feather for 30 seconds. With a 5-minute cooldown, Shai Feng was ecstatic when he received this rare ring. With that, he decided to switch to the status window, and continue using his free points to increase his agility. Now, his attack speed and movement speed were on par with that of a pure agility ranger. Suddenly, the system notification appeared. Single sword mastery reached 20 points, advancing to beginner swordsman, increasing single sword damage by 10%. Shai Feng felt a bit frustrated. A swordsman who just swings his sword around aimlessly isn't going to get far. So his next destination was the Goblin Arena to earn a skill book. Upon arriving at the arena, Shai Feng opened the door and stepped in. In the middle of a large open field, many players were recklessly charging in to defeat the groups of goblins. However, once inside the arena, all attributes were reduced to 10, skills were disabled, and even equipment became useless. The chances of winning were almost non-existent. A perfect example was these two unlucky individuals who spent all their money just to take part in the challenge, only to have the greedy goblins take their money. Particularly, the ranger class would be shot to death by the goblins. But in the game, players who lost would be resurrected, meaning they'd have to start the challenge all over again. One of the remaining members of the trio, frustrated, said, "Damn it, we were so close. Do you two still have any money left?" Shaik Sin's 2 junior brothers could only sigh. "Boss Shaik Sin, we've already given you all the money from the 5 of us. There's really no more left." Shai Feng, seeing this from a distance, was initially surprised, but soon became disappointed with Shaik Sin, the player. How can a player in the top 10 of Star Moon Kingdom be this weak? On the other hand, Shaik Sin, having set his sights on Shai Feng, approached and introduced himself. "Hello, my friend. I'm Shaik Sin, the captain of the Rangers of the Assassin's League. If you don't mind, could you lend me 5 copper coins? I'll pay you back 20 copper coins tomorrow. Doesn't that sound reasonable? By the way, my Assassin's League is a well-known, prestigious guild. That 5 copper coins might just open the door to an opportunity for you to join us." Shai Feng sighed and replied, 5 copper coins. Of course, that's not a problem, but as for paying it back. Before he could finish, Shaik Sin immediately pounced, grabbing Shai Feng's shoulders, thinking that using his Assassin's League identity would scare him into not demanding repayment. To his surprise, Shai Feng insisted, 50 copper coins for the 5 copper coins you borrowed. Shaik Sin froze in place, and his 2 junior brothers, visibly annoyed, rushed forward to criticize. "What's wrong with you? Is money all you care about? You don't even know how to kiss up to the captain. The person you borrowed from is Shaik Sin, the legendary Shaik Sin." Shai Feng ignored them, turning to Shaik Sin and asking, "So, are you borrowing more or not?" Shaik Sin, for the sake of honor, agreed to the proposal from the leader of the challenge. Shai Feng, even though cautious about potential threats, did not anticipate that someone would try to befriend Shaik Sin just to remind him about the 50 copper coins debt. Shaik Sin immediately reassured him, "Don't worry, I promise I won't forget." In the end, Shai Feng softened and handed them 5 copper coins, saying, "It seems today not only did we get some rare items, but we also managed to steal 50 copper coins from another player." The 3 behind them were stunned, realizing it was already too late to back out. 2 junior brothers behind him murmured, "Captain, do we really have to pay the 50 copper coins? Or should we just pay him off, gather some more money, and come back tomorrow?" Shaik Sin clenched the 5 copper coins in his hand. His face flushed with anger as he said, "Anyway, I'm the captain of the Assassin's League, a well-known figure. How could I possibly not pay off my debts?" Shaik Sin's eyes welled up with tears as he said, "I almost reached the target earlier. Today, I must succeed in the challenge, no matter what." The 2 junior brothers, hearing such nonsense, could only look on in silence. A while later, while resting, the 3 members of Shaik Sin's group made up their minds to continue the challenge. One junior brother suddenly noticed that Shai Feng also wanted to join the battle challenge. Shai Xin looked at him with disdain. Hemph, that guy is just weak. Does he really think the challenge is easy? Although there are only 30 rounds left, when we get to the final 15 rounds, the goblin's attack pattern will change. Its attack frequency will be much higher. How could he possibly survive that? The other one nodded in agreement. Exactly. You're so strong, and you only made it through 20 rounds. Shai Feng had just signed up, and the countdown for the duel was ticking -3, 2, 1. As the sound of the gunshot rang out, Shai Feng immediately dashed forward, charging straight at the goblins. His duel had officially begun. Gunfire echoed in his direction, but he charged through the storm of bullets, dodging and firing simple shots in return. He moved with a fluid grace, evading the oncoming fire, his steps precise, gathering enough force to push forward. Shai Xin's junior brother shouted wildly, "Your speed is so fast, you even match or outpace Shai Xin." Before he could finish comparing, he was struck in the stomach by another goblin, silencing him immediately. Shai Xin, however, believed he must be an athlete or someone who has practiced martial arts. That's why he's more agile than an average person. But deep down, Shai Xin was gritting his teeth, fearing that this person is more like an experienced master, someone who has honed his skills in the arena for years. He surely isn't a mere newbie. Every movement he makes is simple but effective. Even I wouldn't be able to do better. Shai Xin smiled confidently, thinking to himself, after the 15th wave of monsters, the goblin's attack pattern will change, and by then, he'll definitely die. Then during the 15th wave, the goblins grew bored of their rifles and switched to pistols, launching a full barrage of bullets at Shai Feng. Finally, they're showing their true colors. Shai Feng thought eagerly, drawing his sword and charging straight into the oncoming bullets. Two of Shai Xin's junior brothers watched from afar, laughing, thinking, whether he blocks the bullets or gets hit, it's still a failure. But they never expected that he would use his sword to chop those bullets into pieces. One barrage after another, he kept slicing through the bullets, clearing the way toward the goblins. The entire Shai Xin group was silent when they witnessed this. Oh my God, is that guy even human? He turned and yelled, "Boss, it's already the 25th wave of monsters. That guy is about to reach the goal." Shai Xin, annoyed, knocked him on the head. "Shut your mouth, stop bothering me." Shai Xin couldn't believe it. Is it possible for someone to open a server and predict the path of obstacles, then use a sword to block them? If there is, that level of skill could only belong to monsters. And that monster was right in front of them, still wreaking havoc, evading the challenges in such a spectacular way that Shai Xin had to scream, "Be careful!" Shai Feng saw the goblins unleashing their strongest guns, determined to take him down. The sound of continuous gunfire echoed, and Shai Xin, like everyone else, was left dumbfounded by the firepower. Bullets rained down, tearing up the ground. Bullet casings fell out of the guns one by one. Shai Feng didn't lose heart though. He raised his sword and sliced through all the bullets. An explosion rang out. The Shai Xin brute fell silent after witnessing this. But luckily, Shai Feng reacted in time and jumped away from the explosion. Sweat poured down his face. Shai Feng used all his strength to land and reached the finish line of this challenge. The goblin waved the flag joyfully and said, "Your total time is 14 seconds. Congratulations, you've broken the preset record for the bronze rank. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all applaud. Congratulations to this swordsman for successfully completing the challenge and receiving the reward for his hard work. That is 1 silver coin and the swordsman's skill, Thundering Flash." The Shai Xin Guild was also elated, praising him. Absolutely amazing, so impressive. Before Shai Feng had a chance to catch his breath, he hurriedly opened his inventory to check what Thundering Flash was like. Thundering Flash is a sword-based skill, with each attack dealing 10% damage, and it has a cooldown of 30 seconds. Shai Feng was thrilled to have received such a good item. As a swordsman, skills focused on single-target damage are essential. Thundering Flash is one of the few powerful AoE skills that only swordsmen can learn, and being able to acquire it was definitely well worth it. He turned to look at the three who were now beaming with excitement. "You guys can continue playing. I'm heading out. Don't forget my 50 copper." The two junior brothers, seeing him leave, suddenly got the idea of stealing his reward. They were promptly given a slap on the head by Shai Xin for embarrassing him and not knowing their place. As for Shai Feng, after leaving the arena with the skill book in hand, his next goal would be to practice diligently. Under the dense canopy of the forest, countless beginners were eagerly chatting, looking for teammates to hunt monsters together. Shai Feng only glanced over briefly before losing interest as he was used to fighting alone. However, the issue at hand was rather troublesome. Shai Feng needed to buy 20 bursting berries, but he only had a mere 30 copper left in his pouch. It seemed the only way to make money was by hunting monsters. Without hesitation, he made his way to the redleaf forest, where the recommended level was 1. On his way, he came across a party of 4 surrounding a wolf. 2 warriors were taking melee damage, 1 archer was attacking from a distance, and a mage was providing support from behind. Although the experience gained would be shared among the group, their speed in taking down monsters was much faster, and their safety was ensured. In this world, once a player dies, the punishment is severe. Not only do they lose a level of experience, but they also lose any items they were carrying. No one dared to take risks that could potentially destroy all their hard work. As Shai Feng got closer, one of the group members glared at him and warned, "This monster spawn point is ours. Don't even think about stealing our kills." He simply shrugged and responded indifferently, "Tech, I'm not interested in fighting low-level monsters with you guys." With that, he immediately ventured deeper into the redleaf forest, where the monsters were level 5. With its current strength, he was more than capable of dealing with them. Before long, his gaze fixed on a level 4 cub. Shai Feng was about to strike it down, but when he saw the thick layer of defense, he suddenly hesitated. If the mother bear appeared while he was still fighting, the situation could become dire. Thinking this, he decided to spare it, and continued searching for another target. Shai Feng cautiously moved deeper into the forest, carefully scanning his surroundings with each step. As he walked, he suddenly spotted a wild wolf crouching down to drink from the riverbank. The wolf was completely unaware that it had already entered his sights. He tightened his grip on his sword, preparing to strike. Although wild wolves were sharp and perceptive, they also possessed extremely dangerous offensive power. With his low health, even the slightest noise could make him an easy target. Looking around, Shai Feng confirmed there was only 1 wolf here. In that case, it was still manageable. But he had to be extra careful, since this was the riverbank. There might very well be a whole wolf pack lurking nearby. Thinking of this, he slowly began to retreat, intending to find a safer position. But at that moment, the ground beneath his feet suddenly gave way. He fell straight into a deep pit, twisting in midair before landing safely. Letting out a sigh of relief, he was about to lean against a tree and take a different route when he immediately heard the echoing howl of a wolf behind him. Damn, my luck really is terrible. Without even needing to turn around, he knew he had just stumbled into a wolf pack. They had noticed him and were charging toward him. Shai Feng tried to run, but the wolves were closing in faster and faster. Realizing the situation was getting out of hand, he had no choice but to activate Unleash Gravity. Immediately, a stream of force enveloped his body, making him as light as a feather. As a result, his speed surged, quickly leaving the wolves behind. After running for a while, he glanced back to check. Once he was sure none of them were chasing him anymore, he let out a sigh of relief. At this moment, the scene in front of him had completely changed. A fiery red hill, hidden within the forest, now appeared before him. This is the Central Mountain Range, ranked 6. He had once heard rumors on the forums that a secret treasure, called the Silver Chest, was hidden at the peak of this mountain. Such a rare opportunity couldn't be missed. Without hesitation, Shai Feng followed the trail leading toward the hill. After some difficult and tedious wandering, he finally reached a waterfall, flowing relentlessly. The treasure must be here. Looking up at the towering cliff face, he murmured, "The Central Mountain Range has no paths for climbing. If you don't have at least 40 points in agility and the leap skill, don't even dream of getting up there." However, he wasn't worried at all, for he already possessed the Ring of Gravity, which made everything much simpler. Shai Feng easily clung to the cliff and climbed up with ease. After a few leaps, he had reached a height of over 5 meters. Noticing the pull of gravity weakening, he quickly searched for an open spot to rest, waiting for the force to recharge before continuing his journey. Before Shai Feng could sit down to rest, the ground suddenly shook violently. From beneath the stone surface, a gigantic hand reached up, pulling a stone giant out of the earth. The deep guttural roar echoed throughout the space, signaling the menacing arrival of the creature. Without panic, Shai Feng immediately drew a bursting berry from his waist pouch. When this orb detonates, it will create a magnetic field with a radius of 3 meters, slowing the target's movement speed by 30% and reducing its rotation speed by up to 70%, with the effect lasting for 1 minute. As the stone giant raised its arm to strike, Shai Feng quickly rolled to the side and threw the bursting berry directly at its foot. A loud explosion rang out. The ground around him was immediately covered in a thick orange liquid, a special magnetic field designed to trap the enemy. Seizing the opportunity, Shai Feng drew his sword and charged forward, circling to the back of the stone giant and delivering a precise strike to its weak point. The blow not only dealt damage, but also helped him improve his skill proficiency. The stone giant attempted to turn and counterattack, but the effect of the bursting berry slowed its movements considerably. Shai Feng did not give it a chance to retaliate, continuing to weave around its back, exploiting every opening to deal damage. When he felt his rhythm of attack was stable enough, he immediately unleashed Thundering Flash. A bolt of lightning flashed, striking the stone giant and causing significant damage. Not stopping there, he followed up with 2 more lightning strikes, the arcs of white and blue electricity piercing through the giant's tough stone body. In less than a minute, the stone giant collapsed with a loud crash, letting out a relieved sigh. Shai Feng climbed onto its head and sat down to rest. Not bad luck after all, he thought as the giant had dropped a piece of equipment. He picked it up and examined it. It was a piece of armor called Normal Gorgeous Shirt, a level 4 item that added 3 points to defense and had a durability of 20/20ths. After stowing it in his bag, Shai Feng was about to continue climbing the mountain when suddenly a flock of something zoomed past, catching his attention. Looking in the direction they flew, he noticed a dark cave hidden beneath the cliff. A cave. Curiosity piqued. Shai Feng moved closer to investigate. His steps were slow and cautious, carefully observing his surroundings in case of any surprises. As he ventured deeper, his heartbeat quickened. Before him lay a colossal creature fast asleep. This was no ordinary stone giant, but a rare individual with silver-white fur exuding a powerful aura. The floating text above it clearly read, Thuros Elite, Level 6, 900 HP. Well, the big fella's here. Without hesitation, Shai Feng drew his sword and charged forward, immediately activating Thundering Flash. A sharp bolt of lightning shot straight into the massive body of Thuros. Although the damage was minimal, it was enough to rouse the sleeping monster. Struck unexpectedly, Thuros Elite slowly opened its eyes, its cold gaze sweeping down at the one who dared disturb its slumber. In just a moment, an angry roar echoed, shaking the entire cave. The whole cavern trembled violently, as if an invisible force had struck it. The Thuros Elite immediately stood up, walking steadily toward Shai Feng. I can't let the monster have a chance, Shai Feng quickly reacted. While dodging, he jumped up, his hands constantly preparing bursting berries to throw at it. He calculated that although the monster had a massive amount of health, with his speed and agility, he could certainly secure the win. But as soon as he made his move, the Thuros Elite immediately noticed. It swung its gigantic stone hand, sweeping powerfully toward Shai Feng, preventing him from using the bursting berries. The monster then stomped heavily on the ground, attempting to crush Shai Feng. Luckily, he reacted quickly and rolled backward, narrowly avoiding its stomp. Not stopping there, the Thuros Elite relentlessly unleashed powerful attacks. Its speed and striking power were terrifying. Shai Feng felt the heavy blows from the giant's fists, each strike sending a shockwave as if it could throw him far away. Suddenly, the Thuros Elite spun around and lifted a massive rock, like a gigantic foot, pushing it toward Shai Feng. In a panic, Shai Feng was immediately pushed back, sent flying a great distance. In the midst of being pressured, he unexpectedly felt a surge of recovery energy. The monster's health was gradually replenishing. Shai Feng sighed, realizing his mistake. I was too careless. Unlike the regular monsters encountered before, the Thuros Elite possesses an incredibly powerful regenerative ability. Every 5 seconds, it can recover 2% of the damage it takes from normal attacks. Shai Feng could not keep up with this recovery rate. However, he wasn't in a hurry to worry. Calmly gripping his sword, Shai Feng bet everything on the deep wound caused by Thundering Flash. He was determined to torment this monster until it could no longer heal. He immediately used Thundering Flash to strike the Thuros Elite, sending a series of lightning bolts into its body, dealing massive damage. Shai Feng saw the giant swinging its hand toward him, but without hesitation. He continued his assault, striking the monster repeatedly. Even so, he noticed that his damage had surpassed the recovery limit of the Thuros elite. Shi Feng smiled quietly to himself. It's working. Suddenly, a terrifying roar echoed, shaking the entire surrounding space. I will trample you underfoot. The boss bellowed in rage, and immediately leaped into the air. When it landed heavily on the ground, the entire cavern trembled violently, rocks and debris echoing throughout the space. Sharp stalactites fell from the ceiling like rain, filling the air. Shi Feng thought in alarm. Is it time for the boss to use its area of effect skill? Sensing the danger, Shi Feng wasted no time and quickly withdrew to one side to avoid the falling stalactites. He landed safely, but right after that, he realized that the Thuros elite had suddenly stopped moving. Shi Feng thought to himself, is it the fatigue stage? Fatigue stage is an effect that many smaller bosses will go through after using their ultimate skill, weakening them both in terms of attack and defense. Shi Feng realized this was his opportunity to end the battle, and he decided to charge in immediately, not wasting any time. He struck fiercely at the body of Thuros elite, aiming directly at its eyes with a powerful thrust. The monster howled in pain, its roar echoing through the cave. Seizing the moment while it was weakened, Shi Feng did not miss the chance, continuing his assault with thundering flash, relentlessly dealing damage to prevent its recovery. Shi Feng relentlessly attacked Thuros elite's legs, throwing it off balance and causing it to fall to the ground. But suddenly, Thuros elite opened its mouth as if preparing to roar again. This time, it unexpectedly used a different skill, and suddenly disappeared from its position. In a moment of panic, Shi Feng turned around and saw the monster reappearing right behind him, delivering a powerful blow to him. Due to the significant level difference, the strike from Thuros elite sent Shi Feng flying, crashing hard into the stone wall on the other side. He felt pain, coughing up a little blood from his mouth, but he still forced himself to get back on his feet. Shi Feng looked at the monster and thought to himself, I have to take a risk. He quickly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, focusing all his strength on unleashing everything he had as he charged toward Thuros elite. There was no time to hesitate, and Shi Feng attacked furiously, surrounding the monster with thundering flash and slash. His eyes burned red, and his swordsmanship grew faster and stronger, slicing off chunks of stone from Thuros elite's body. This is the final blow, Shi Feng shouted. With a powerful swing of his sword, 3 bolts of lightning pierced straight through the body of the monster. A loud explosion rang out, and immediately, the massive body of the Thuros elite collapsed, turning into a heap of shattered debris. After defeating the boss, Shi Feng approached the pile of rubble and began searching through it. Looks like I spoke too soon. This boss not only drops equipment but also skill books. Shi Feng quickly stashed the shield into his inventory, then moved to pick up the skill book that had just dropped. It was a common defensive skill for melee warriors. The only requirement to use it was having a melee weapon capable of parrying a direct attack. The skill's cooldown was 30 seconds. Looking at the skill book, Shi Feng thought to himself, a useful defensive skill like this. I should learn it myself. Without hesitation, he immediately activated the skill and officially learned the parry ability. After collecting his belongings, Shi Feng left the cave. Though his body felt somewhat fatigued, the rewards were more than worth it. More importantly, he'd come a step closer to the summit. However, the remaining distance was still more than a third of the way. Without wasting any time, Shi Feng activated his endurance skill, using his maximum speed to continue his climb. The higher he went, the more treacherous the terrain became, forcing him to carefully choose each rock step by step. After landing safely, an unsettling feeling suddenly crept into his mind. He furrowed his brows and thought, wait, something's not right. This place is covered by a thick layer of white bone, and visibility is severely limited. Amid the foggy landscape, a sudden sound echoed, causing Shi Feng to instinctively draw his sword, ready to fight. However, it was not an enemy, but rather the system notifying him. You have discovered a lost land. At the same time, a hidden quest named Past Glories has been activated. The system also issued a warning. From this moment, you will be cut off from communication with the outside world and cannot leave this area until the quest is completed. Shi Feng did not expect to encounter a hidden quest here. According to his memory, this place originally only had a mithril treasure chest. But even though it was unexpected, he had no reason to decline this opportunity. When he opened the quest log to check the instructions, the system only displayed a brief message. Explore on your own to find the answers. This made Shai Feng recall a thread on a forum from before. There are special quests in God's domain that can only be activated in restricted areas. Once completed, those areas will be permanently sealed. He took a deep breath, thinking to himself, I've seen many players bragging about quests like this. I didn't expect that today I'd be the one to experience it. Looking around, the only thing visible was the thick fog stretching all the way to the horizon. But since he had come this far, he couldn't quit halfway. If things went badly and he had to die, he could always respawn at the city. There was nothing to lose. With that thought, Shai Feng began searching for clues. He approached a nearby abandoned building, carefully opened the door, and rummaged through everything he could find. However, after several hours of searching, he still had not gathered any valuable information. Feeling frustrated, you punched the wall with all your might, angrily saying, Not a single NPC to guide me. How long is it going to take to find anything like this? Realizing that continuing to fumble around endlessly would only waste more time, Shai Feng decided to go outside and find a higher vantage point to broaden his view. He quickly climbed onto a nearby rooftop and scanned the area. The fog was still thick, covering almost the entire landscape. But then, a ray of sunlight pierced through the mist, slowly causing it to dissipate. In that very moment, Shai Feng noticed the faint silhouette of a mage tower standing tall amidst the fog. Without thinking twice, he immediately jumped down, heading straight toward the tower. The closer he got, the clearer it became amidst the thick mist. It seemed like this was exactly where the system wanted him to explore. Under the dim light from the highest floor, a majestic voice suddenly rang out. Young adventurer, welcome to Sky City. Before Shai Feng stood an old man, holding a mysterious crescent-shaped staff. But what stunned him even more was the name just mentioned. Sky City. Isn't that the legendary city from the God's Domain continent? He thought to himself. But according to the game's storyline, it had disappeared after the Third Divine War. Why is it here now? The old man cleared his throat gently before continuing in a deep voice. Warrior from another realm. I'm sure you wish to become stronger, correct? I can help you achieve that. But first, do you dare accept my challenge? Without hesitation, Shai Feng nodded in agreement. The old man smiled, ready to offer him the choice between 3 different difficulty levels. However, before he could finish speaking, Shai Feng quickly pointed to the highest level. A big gamble wouldn't hurt, right? Go big or go home. The young man remained as optimistic as ever. Seeing the young man's battle-hungry attitude and overwhelming confidence, the old man let out a hearty laugh. At that moment, a system window appeared before Shai Feng, displaying the past glories quest. Facing 1,000 monsters of the same level, he needed to eliminate at least 500 to complete the challenge. The time limit was 4 hours, and failure meant permanent loss. The reward, 10 attribute points. After reading the conditions carefully, Shai Feng wasted no time and hit confirm. Immediately, the old man's body began to fade into the air. But before completely disappearing, he left behind a cryptic reminder. Brave warrior from another realm, I hope you won't regret your choice. No sooner had the words left his mouth than the ground began to shake violently. From beneath the earth, bumming hands suddenly rose, followed by thousands of nether spirit warriors with eyes glowing with fiery light. They surged forth like a tidal wave, surrounding the mage tower. Seeing this scene, Shai Feng immediately understood that if he engaged directly, he would be surrounded in the blink of an eye. He needed to find a location with a narrow terrain to limit the number of enemies attacking at once. Without hesitation, he turned and rushed into the tower, sprinting up the spiral staircase before stopping at a narrow corridor. This was the perfect spot. The passageway was wide enough only for 2 enemies to pass through at a time. Create the ideal conditions for you to endure. The growls grew louder and closer, and exactly 5 seconds later, the first wave of nether spirit warriors surged in frantically, charging directly towards you. However, with the confined space, they hindered each other, allowing Shai Feng to only face 2 enemies at a time. He effortlessly dodged their simple attacks and quickly unleashed Thundering Flash. The gleaming sword beam cut through the air, instantly obliterating the first 40 enemies. Another wave surged forward, and he immediately activated Slash, taking down 50 more. In the blink of an eye, 90 enemies had been eliminated, but the battle was far from over. Refusing to be overwhelmed, Shai Feng made use of the terrain, maintaining a steady rhythm of attacks. The blade in his hand swung ceaselessly, each strike precise and decisive. The number of kills increased rapidly by the minute -370, then 400 out of the total 500. At this point, Shai Feng was feeling exhausted, a wave of fatigue sweeping over his body. However, if he could continue holding his ground, he was certain that wiping out all 500 monsters was just a matter of time. Yet something unexpected occurred. Right beneath the staircase, shadowy figures began to appear. The second-tier Spectre assassins were silently observing him. Without a sound, they quickly clung to walls and began climbing with terrifying speed. Distracted by the battle with the Nether Spirit warriors, Shai Feng only realized the danger when a chilling aura suddenly overwhelmed him. Instantly, he shoved his opponent aside, leaping to the side to avoid a sneak attack. A spinning kick was launched, sweeping two ghosts off the railing. Without losing momentum, he grabbed tightly onto the stairwell's banister, dodging the enemy's lightning-fast sword strike. Then gathered all his strength, driving the tip of his sword straight into the skull of the sorrowful bone creature before him. But just as he took one down, a sudden attack from behind struck him directly, causing his health to drop significantly. Another sneak attack. How annoying! Shai Feng gritted his teeth and delivered a powerful kick, sending the ranger who had ambushed him flying out of the battlefield. But the danger wasn't over. Other ghosts were still lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. Moreover, he was still 80 monsters away from completing the challenge. He hadn't expected the last 100 to feature such agile monsters. He panted, "Thank goodness they're low on health, or I would've been done for." The ghosts didn't give him any chance to rest, charging at him in waves. Shai Feng took a deep breath, tightened his grip on the sword hilt, then spun around 180 degrees, unleashing Thundering Flash to clear out the rangers closing in on him. However, the encirclement wasn't entirely broken. Without hesitation, he leaped up, landing directly on the roof of the tower. Using the height to his advantage, he dove down, triggering Thundering Flash once more. This time, the remaining ghosts were completely obliterated. The battle dragged on, but finally, it reached its end. Inside the Mage Tower, the corpses of thousands of ghosts piled up across the Grand Hall. On the blood-stained staircase, Shai Feng stood there, breathing heavily after the grueling battle. After defeating 500 monsters, the final task was finally completed. His vision blurred, and his body was so exhausted that he felt as though he might collapse right on the spot. But just then, a familiar voice echoed. The mysterious old man appeared again, hands clasped behind his back, looking at him with satisfaction. "Not bad, young man." The system immediately displayed a notification. The Past Glories mission had been completed. The reward included a golden treasure chest and the title 1,000 to 1. With this title, when there were at least 3 enemies within the combat range, all of his attributes would increase by 10%. Additionally, he received 5 points of strength and 5 points of endurance. After the reward was granted, the old man merely waved his hand gently, his voice calm. "You may leave now." Shai Feng quickly extended his hand, trying to stop him. "Hey, wait a minute, can't you say a few more words?" But before he could hear a response, a sudden burst of light enveloped him. The sensation of his body being pulled away so rapidly left him no time to react before. Thud! He crashed onto the hard ground. Around him, numerous players turned their heads, gazing at him in astonishment. Now that's a surprise. Someone just fell from the sky. Shai Feng felt dizzy, his mind spinning. It took a moment for him to regain his bearings. When he realized he had returned to Redleaf Town, he immediately remembered the golden treasure chest, the reward he had risked his life to obtain. Without hesitation, he sprang to his feet and quickly darted into a hidden corner. The mission was complete, but the danger was far from over. Such a precious item, if exposed to others, could easily be stolen. To be sure, he carefully looked around, confirmed that no one was watching before finally opening the system. His heart raced as he pressed the confirmation button. The chest glowed brightly as it opened, and the dazzling golden light illuminated an entire corner of the sky. Shai Feng's eyes widened. His mouth dropped open as he muttered, "Oh my God." It seemed he had just acquired a valuable item. Shai Feng had unlocked the Abyssal Blade, a magical weapon. The system displayed a prompt asking Shai Feng whether he wanted to equip the item immediately. He hesitated for a moment. This magical weapon could greatly enhance your strength, but it also comes with the unpredictable risk of backlash. If you're not careful, you could become a chain zombie, waiting for the right moment to break free and massacre everyone. The thought sent a chill down his spine. Not wanting to take the risk, Shai Feng immediately pressed the cancel button. Continuing to inspect the chest, he discovered 2 valuable skill books, Redleaf Town and Trading Area. Owning these meant that he could progress further in alchemy and blacksmithing. Thinking about his next plan, Shai Feng decided, I'll head to Dark Moon Valley, where there's a quest that will help me learn smithing for free, as well as provide an opportunity to level up. But before embarking on this dangerous challenge, he needed to prepare thoroughly. Therefore, Shai Feng stopped by the bustling trading area, where players were always coming and going. Many people, just returning from exhausting battles, gathered around small shops to drink and chat. Others took the opportunity to sell materials gathered from monster hunts. Finding a space, Shai Feng spread a white cloth on the ground and neatly arranged the items he intended to sell. Most of them were melee weapons, but there were also some valuable herbs for crafting potions or healing. After finishing his preparations, he took a deep breath and raised his voice. Rare herbs, high-level equipment here. Anyone interested, come take a look. His call immediately caught the attention of the crowd, causing a stir. Some people couldn't hide their astonishment when they saw him selling even bronze-level equipment, something that most players couldn't afford at this stage. Oh my god, what kind of luck is this? I'm still wearing my default gear, and this guy is already selling bronze gear. This is nothing. The server just launched, and there are already experts taking out the town chief. Right, that's an elite level 15. No one can take the town chief's quest anymore, all because of him. Hearing the chatter, Shai Feng glanced over at a bald-headed player approaching. It was a young man who seemed to want to negotiate the price, trying to haggle the shield down from 21 silver coins. But Shai Feng simply smiled and decisively refused to budge. At that moment, the system suddenly displayed a notification. Black Cloud invites you to join the conversation with Hyde Z. Shai Feng quickly accepted the call. Immediately, an angry voice came from the other end of the line. Shai Feng, you finally picked up. I've been trying to reach you for ages, and now I'm already a level below the others. Where are you? Feeling a bit guilty, Shai Feng softened his tone. Sorry about that. I got caught up with a mission and lost track of time. Head over to the central square. I'll level you up soon. As soon as the conversation ended, a group of players appeared from a distance, led by a large shield warrior. Upon seeing him, the crowd immediately parted to make way. This man was none other than Yanhu, the leader of the Shadow Group, the strongest faction in Redleaf Town. He strode forward, arrogantly shouting, "Move, make way. If the Shadow Group is here, we're taking everything. All of you, get out of the way." His shout immediately made the atmosphere tense. The players around, though displeased, hesitated and still moved away, leaving only a few curious onlookers to see what would happen next. Yan Hu glanced over the stall before lifting his chin and asking, "Are you the owner of this stall?" Shai Feng calmly nodded, "Yes, that's right, I'm Shai Feng." His eyes quietly scanned Yan Hu. In his past life, Yan Hu had been the leader in Redleaf Town, but it wasn't until much later that he truly rose to power. He hadn't expected to run into him so early this time. And of course, you wouldn't let this guy make things difficult for you so easily. Yan Hu curled his lips, took out a silver coin, and tossed it to the ground like he was giving alms. A silver coin, I'll take it all. Shai Feng gave a cold smile, his eyes briefly showing a hint of mockery. Yan Hu, sorry, but there's no bargaining here. If you want to play that game, find another place to act. His words caused Yan Hu's face to darken. He gritted his teeth, his voice icy with murderous intent. "You dare to oppose us, Shadow?" Immediately, 5 of his subordinates stepped forward, surrounding Shai Feng. Watching this, Shai Feng couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. This guy was still as stupid as in his past life, and he still hadn't realized that you couldn't make a move in this town. Right. But Yan Hu didn't care about that. His anger clouded his judgment, his eyes reddened, unable to hold back any longer, and he raised his axe high, charging straight at Shai Feng. Suddenly, a round of applause echoed, interrupting the tense exchange. Now, this is interesting. A bronze-level shield. Huh. How could the Assassin's League miss out on this? In the midst of the crowded scene, a figure appeared as light as a ghost. It was Sheikh Sin, the captain of the Assassin's League. His appearance caused the entire shadow group to freeze, not daring to make a move. However, when his gaze swept across the stall, and he realized that Shai Feng was the stall owner, his surprise deepened. A master, huh? It seems we meet again. Without hesitation, Shai Xin casually offered 24 silver coins to buy the entire stall. Shai Feng chuckled and replied casually, "If you're being generous, then you don't need to pay the 50 copper coins from before. Consider it as me making friends with you." At that moment, a voice filled with frustration came from the crowd. Brother Feng, I finally found you." Haizi squeezed through the crowd, his face full of grievance. At that time, Shai Feng had just completed the transaction with Shai Xin. Shai Xin, slightly disappointed, muttered, "He already left. I didn't even get to say a few more words." Leaving the bustling market area, Haizi eagerly asked about the leveling location. When he heard Shai Feng mention Dark Moon Valley, he immediately froze, stammering, "Dark Moon Valley? Brother Feng, that's a level 4 monster zone. Isn't there somewhere safer?" Shai Feng casually patted Haizi on the shoulder and confidently laughed, "Don't worry, just follow me." In a hidden corner, Yan Hu was still seething with anger. He gritted his teeth, his cold eyes following the two who had just left. One of his underlings propped his chin and cautiously asked, "Boss Yan, are we just going to let them go like this?" Yan Hu's face turned red with fury, and he glared as he snapped, "You follow them, and keep an eye on them for me. This guy dares to go against Shadow. I'll make him understand the consequences." After leaving the noisy market, the two of them entered the forest leading to Dark Moon Valley, but Haizi continued to complain weakly. Walking slowly, "Brother Feng, are we really going to Dark Moon Valley?" Hearing that, Shai Feng said, "That area is a level 4 monster zone. A 3-person squad can only grind monsters that are 1 level higher. But for us, you're level 0 and I'm level 2. He asked, "Are you scared?" Immediately after, Shai Feng put his arm around his shoulder, reassuring him, "Did you forget? I know experts. How else would I dare to bring you here to level up?" He looked skeptically at the experts Shai Feng had mentioned. "Brother Feng, are those experts trustworthy?" Seeing Haizi still unconvinced, Shai Feng decided to lay it all out. "Haizi, the server has only been open for 10 hours. How many level 2 players are there across the entire server? Most of the elites in the studios are only level 1, and I've leveled up to level 2 thanks to information from those experts." Hearing this, Haizi finally believed Shai Feng, taking a deep breath and flexing his hands in excitement. "Brother Feng, I was the fool. Let's go, I'm ready." Before he could finish, Shai Feng had already walked ahead, leaving Haizi stunned. "Huh, Haizi." He quickly ran after him, calling out loudly, "Brother Feng, wait for me." Suddenly, behind a tree, a foot peeked out. It was no other than Wu Lang, sent by his boss to follow them. He thought to himself, daring to come to a level 4 zone. As expected, this swordsman is suspicious. He smiled cunningly. But he's about to meet me. At that moment, Haizi, hiding behind a rock, was observing the situation, and reported back to Shai Feng. "Brother Feng, look over here. There's a monster named Green." Over there was a level 2 cunning snow fox, eating a rabbit. Seeing this, Shai Feng was overjoyed, as if he had struck gold, and drew his sword, instructing, "Haizi, you're lucky. The green-named monster is a rare elite. I can't believe you just spotted it like that." The hero charged forward with his sword, while the long-range scout was fine. The rest was up to him, leaving Haizi completely panicked and terrified. "And Feng, those are elite monsters of your level." Shai Feng ignored those words, and ran behind a rock, stealthily watching the snow fox eat. When he saw an opportunity, he swung his sword at the snow fox's body, dealing 32 damage. But the snow fox was quick on its feet, and managed to dodge part of the attack. At that moment, the snow fox glared with angry red eyes. Shai Feng panted heavily, thinking, "Only 32 damage. This monster's tougher than I thought." He quickly positioned himself, ready to strike with a fatal blow. The snow fox lunged, its mouth wide open to reveal sharp teeth. At that moment, Shai Feng swiftly raised his sword, feeling the tension. Both sides struggled fiercely, neither giving an inch, but in the end, the fox managed to scratch his face. He realized that the monster's strength wasn't weak at all. Haizi watched the battle, his hands trembling in fear, unable to move. Oh no, this time, Am Feng is definitely dead. Seeing Haizi standing frozen in place, Shai Feng shouted, Haizi, stop standing there. Make your move. Haizi gritted his teeth with determination. I know, I know. He then began chanting his spell, Dark Shadow Arrow. He released the energy, sending it swiftly towards the snow fox's abdomen. The attack hit perfectly, but it only dealt 5 damage. In despair, he opened his mouth and sighed. I've put all my points into intelligence to increase magic damage, and yet it only dealt 5. The elite monster's defense is terrifying. Shi Feng, both encouraging and attacking the snow fox, shouted to Haizi, Don't be afraid. You're drawing its hatred. Keep attacking. Haizi followed Shai Feng's orders, relentlessly launching dark shadow arrows. But despite the barrage, the snow fox remained largely unharmed. Eventually, Shai Feng was struck by the snow fox's claw right at the elbow, but fortunately, he was wearing protective armor, allowing him to grit his teeth and push the fox away. Despite the minimal damage, Shai Feng kicked the creature, sending it flying several meters away. Wu Lang, still hiding behind a rock, sneered maliciously while observing the battle. Looks like I don't even need to intervene. Seconds later, Shai Feng's health had dropped significantly, while the snow fox had lost almost half of its health. In a sudden burst of aggression, the fox charged at him. Clang! The wolf bit down fiercely on Shai Feng's sword, and the system immediately began warning that the durability of the novice sword was decreasing. It then alerted that the sword was about to break. Haizi, watching from the sidelines, shouted in panic, It's over. It looks like Brother Feng is going to bleed out here. With a furious expression, the snow fox lunged at the sword once more. Shai Feng quickly kicked it away and shouted, Get the hell off me. A trace of exhaustion crossed his face as he thought to himself, If this drags on any longer, I'll be the one to die. The snow fox was relentless, charging toward him again. Realizing there was no choice, Shai Feng decided to play his trump card. Just as the fox lunged at him again, he jumped into the air, grabbing a glass bottle from his hand. With a single motion, Shai Feng unscrewed the cap, causing the liquid inside to spray out. He then turned the bottle upside down, pouring its contents directly into his mouth, drinking every last drop. After finishing his drink, he immediately threw the bottle into the water, shattering it into pieces. Then Shai Feng landed on the ground and continued fighting the wolf. At this moment, a status bar appeared above its head, displaying a notification. Mysterious Iron Beer. Enemies in your sight will be reduced by 2 levels. Shai Feng gently wiped the remaining water from his mouth and thought, I'm level 2, and the snow fox is reduced to level 0. The situation had reversed. Immediately, he charged forward, using his momentum to attack. Shai Feng moved like lightning, slashing through the creature with a swift strike. His body exerted so much force that when he landed, the ground cracked beneath him. He didn't stop there, continuing to land several more slashes on the beast, causing its health to steadily drop. Haizi suddenly shouted, Brother Feng, what did you drink? You're so much stronger now. Shai Feng's face was serious as he gritted his teeth and shouted, Not enough yet. He kept attacking with his sword, charging straight at the beast. It seemed like the creature no longer had the strength to resist, but Shai Feng didn't stop, continuing to push forward with a final powerful attack. At that moment, it seemed like someone else had appeared on the ground. Shai Feng sensed something and quickly turned to observe. Suddenly, a sword flew directly towards him, aiming for his neck, leaving him unable to react. However, he quickly retreated, staying on guard. A person named Wu Lang, holding a sword with a smug expression, said, I didn't expect you to dodge my surprise attack. Not bad, your skills are decent. Shai Feng's face, now showing signs of fatigue, shouted, It's you. The shadow group is like a bunch of dogs that can't stop eating shit. The snow fox beast was trembling all over, struggling to keep moving forward. Suddenly, it stomped its foot down hard, regaining a significant amount of strength. After that, it suddenly howled at him. On the status bar, the notification showed, the monster has transformed into a giant, with attack power, speed, and health points increased by 20%. It then charged straight toward Shai Feng to attack, but he quickly dodged. Haizi, seeing this, shouted in panic, Be careful, Brother Feng. That ranger is trying to use a counterattack on you. Seeing this, Wu Lang immediately drew his sword and rushed forward, shouting, Remember, never touch shadow. Shai Feng, startled by the shout, quickly turned his head to observe. Wu Lang grinned smugly as he charged, yelling, "Die!" At the same time, the snow fox beast, seemingly out of control, furiously lunged toward Shai Feng. But Shai Feng reacted incredibly quickly, kicking it away and shouting, "Get over there!" The snow fox beast lost its balance from the kick and changed direction, charging toward Wu Lang instead. Shai Feng, standing off to the side, glanced over at him. Wu Lang, suddenly attacked by the beast, was filled with panic and screamed. However, due to his slow reaction, the snow fox beast immediately bit into him. But as soon as it landed on ground, it spat him out, causing him to crash headfirst into the earth. His status bar showed he had no health left. He had been completely defeated before even having the chance to do anything. Still stunned in his mind. Asterisk, how did this happen? Asterisk. Hide Z, witnessing the whole scene, couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. What the hell? That actually worked. Shai Feng saw that he was still standing there in surprise, so he shouted loudly, "Hide Z! Stop spacing out! Keep attacking!" Then both of them charged in to attack the snow fox, causing its health bar to continuously drop. Shai Feng's face was extremely serious as he charged towards it, attacking on the status bar. The system notification appeared. Kill rare elite monster coming snow fox. Gain 10 experience points. On the status bar, the notification read, Normal black wood staff, bronze grade, required level 1 for magic staff, durability 20/20ths, magic attack +8, intelligence +3, magic points +30, spirit +1. Shai Feng then took the weapon and handed it over, saying, "Hide Z, you should use the snow fox staff that dropped." He scratched his head awkwardly and said, "Brother Feng, you did all the work against the snow fox earlier. I was just standing there watching." Hearing this, Shai Feng smiled and said, "Are you being polite with me? You're a summoner, you can make the best use of the staff. I'm a swordsman. It would be useless for me to keep it." When Shai Feng said that, the boy happily took it. Shai Feng placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "This should be good for now." The scene then shifted to another place, in a building, where a curse rang out. "You worthless piece of trash." A group of people was bullying someone, and then, in a self-satisfied tone, they yelled, "Even a level 2 swordsman can't do anything." The kid who had been beaten could only endure it, gritting his teeth and thinking, "Yan Hu is not someone easy to deal with. If I tell him I failed at sneaking and got killed, he'll definitely kick me out of the studio." Seeing this, he decided to kneel on one knee, shouting loudly, "Brother Hu, I found a rare elite beast. Just when I was about to kill it, that brat Shai Feng showed up. He was wildly making up stories, and he even brought people with him. It was 1 against 2, so I couldn't fight back. They're heading towards Dark Mood Valley. If you chase them now, you'll definitely get the equipment dropped by that elite beast." Yan Hu, upon hearing this, smiled smugly and said, "A rare elite beast." Immediately, he turned around and gave an order, shouting loudly, "Let's go. We're heading there, right now." With an extremely self-satisfied expression, he shouted, "Daring to steal my equipment, I'll make them regret ever playing God's domain." The scene shifted to another location, inside a small house, where a large and muscular man was forging weapons. Jian Hat stood to the side and asked, "Brother Feng, it's been half an hour. Should we wait longer?" Shai Feng replied, "Keep waiting, or we won't be able to activate the quest." The clock continued ticking. 10 minutes later, the blacksmith turned around and said, "You two seem very interested in forging." Shai Feng thought to himself, "Finally, it's been activated." He responded, "Yes, sir. I've loved blacksmithing since I was a child." The system notification displayed on the status bar, stating the activation of the hidden quest forge path, requiring the collection of 100 crystal mineral blocks still located in the red pain mine for Master Blacksmith Jack. The scene shifted again, this time to the Red Star Mine, with the suggested level being level 4. There, terrifying dog-headed beasts roamed the area. Shai Feng gently pressed the smoke grenade with his hand, causing the visibility within a 10x 10-yard radius to drop, maintaining this for a full minute before he threw the grenade directly at them. As soon as the grenade hit the ground, it exploded. Shai Feng slightly turned around and said, "Attack." Hide Z, with a frightened face, drenched in sweat and trembling, yelled loudly, "Forget it, I'm at level 0 anyway. If I die, I die." Immediately, a weapon flew through the air, and with a single strike, pierced through the body of the dog-headed monster. Its health bar instantly dropped. However, this triggered their full-blown rage. As soon as one of them turned to face Haizi, he was so terrified that his entire body was shaking. Shi Feng, standing beside him, said, "Don't worry, the smoke grenade will reduce the monster's vision to only 10 yards. Within the smoke cloud, creatures with poor vision like the dog-headed monsters can only see up to 25 yards. Shi Feng observed the monsters wildly scanning the area and added, "As long as you keep an attack distance of 30 yards, they won't target you." At this point, the monsters continued to roar loudly as if to intimidate them. Shi Feng saw this and said, "Don't look. Keep attacking." Seeing this, Haizi followed his advice and began executing his special skills. Then, he aimed directly at the monsters and attacked. Due to the reduced visibility, he quickly defeated one of them. He was extremely pleased and said, "Leveling up like this is so easy." He immediately continued, unleashing a few more of his best moves, simultaneously taking down several enemies, leaving them furious but unable to do anything in return. After that, he aimed directly at a beast's face and attacked. Haizi was incredibly exhilarated as he attacked, not turning back on a single one. Soon, all the doghead men were defeated one by one. Then, he took out a potion and drank it all. Afterward, he smiled brightly at Shi Feng and shouted, "Brother Feng, the doghead men dropped so many crystal mineral blocks, and there's even a set of level 3 armor." Upon hearing this, Shi Feng thought to himself that the usual drop rate was 1 mineral block for every 100 doghead men. Standing with his arms crossed, he smiled and thought, "Haizi has already killed only 10 monsters, and they've dropped so many blocks, even some equipment. As expected, the kid is still as lucky as ever." Then, Shi Feng jumped up high and shouted, "Haizi, keep going." He landed right in the middle of their territory. All the doghead men gathered together, glaring at him with murderous intent. Shi Feng, neither too fast nor too slow, immediately threw a series of smoke bombs and dashed off. At this moment, Haizi was happily shouting as he unleashed his finishing move. "This is awesome." The status bar kept displaying notifications. Gained 40 experience points. Gained 40 experience points. With that, the two of them quickly leveled up. Haizi happily collected the equipment, raised it high, and shouted, "Brother Feng, this is copper-level gear. Exactly what you need." However, just at that moment, it seemed that another person had appeared. From behind, he wielded a weapon and attacked Haizi, shouting loudly as he charged forward to take down the mage first, and then deal with Shi Feng afterward. Seeing this, Shi Feng panicked and shouted, "Haizi, be careful." The continuous slashes were launched, aimed directly at the two of them. The monsters took turns attacking Haizi, causing his health to drop steadily. He was filled with rage, his face tense, as he shouted, "You bastards." Suddenly, one of them laughed loudly and said, "Damn it, it's you again." Seeing this, Haizi executed his ultimate move and shouted, "I'll risk it with you bastards." The man, feeling smug, charged forward and said, "A worthless summoner like you thinks you can kill me." But before he could attack, Haizi had already performed his ultimate move, delivering a blow to him. Haizi was left astonished, thinking, a third-tier assassination move like that. Afterward, the man stepped back, regained his balance, and shouted to his companions, "Don't be afraid, keep attacking. He's only got half health left." The group charged forward together to attack. He yelled, "A second-tier character dealing that much damage. That bastard must have found a good weapon." Realizing the situation was dire, Haizi thought to himself, "This is bad." Suddenly, at that very moment, a thundering flash skill was activated. Right after that, all of them were attacked to the point where their health bars were significantly reduced. He was quickly knocked down again and shouted loudly, "This damage." At this moment, the boy looked up, and it turned out that Shi Feng had helped him fight them. Haizi was incredibly amazed and thought, "Strong, so strong." Suddenly, more footsteps were heard approaching. Yan Hu led a few more people and angrily shouted, "Stupid Wu Lang, you couldn't even win a 3v1. Then, he shouted an order, "All of you charge. Let them know what happens when they mess with Yan Hu." Next, a bomb was thrown towards them. As soon as it hit the ground, it exploded, sending smoke into the air and obscuring their vision. Shi Feng shouted a command, "We retreat now." The others yelled, "Brother Hu." They'd run away, Should we chase them? He smugly replied, no need. This place is a good spot to level up. Tell Wu Lang to hurry over here. Upon hearing this, they became a bit fearful and said, Brother Hu, do you mean we should stay here in this level 4 zone to level up? With our current ranks, isn't that too dangerous? He angrily shouted in response. Earlier, Haizi used the smoke to lure Doghead Man in, and Doghead Man became a decoy. Can't you idiots learn from that? They immediately followed suit. One of them shouted, and the soldier pulled the enemy into the smoke. Soon after, the others outside launched their special attack. The leader gave the order for the ranged classes to attack. Those outside, while attacking, said, as expected, Brother Hu is so wise. With this, Brother Hu is definitely the number 1 in our shadow group. Humph. Number 1 in shadow. What are you talking about? Brother Hu is the number 1 in God's domain. They then eliminated the first dog-headed man and thought, bone lock. Many people sharing experience like this, killing a dog-headed man gives a 2% increase. We can keep farming monsters endlessly, and at that point, Shadow will be the number 1 guild in God's domain. Yan Hu was there, fantasizing, thinking, at that time, I'll be the one leading Shadow. Just then, one of them shouted, Brother Hu, a rare skill book for swordsmen has dropped. He, sitting leisurely at one side, ordered, don't stop, keep fighting. At that moment, Haizi spoke up, saying, Brother Feng, are we really just going to let them enjoy this? Shai Feng looked at the situation and replied, let them enjoy it for now. In a little while, we'll show them what it's like when joy turns to sorrow. After a while, it seemed like they had eliminated a large number of dog-headed men and gathered quite a bit. At that moment, one of the subordinates said in a panic, Brother Hu, it looks like the smoke is dissipating. He glanced over and indifferently responded, it's dissipating. Ha! As soon as the smoke cleared, one of the terrified subordinates shouted, Brother Yan Hu, it seems like the dog-headed men have noticed us. Immediately afterward, it seemed like the dog-headed men had indeed noticed them, their eyes filled with murderous intent. The dog-headed men were now glaring at them with fierce anger, their eyes brimming with bloodlust. The subordinate screamed in fear, Brother, the fog is gone. One of the dog-headed men quickly grabbed a weapon and charged towards them, attacking. One subordinate was swiftly struck down with a single blow. Then, the dog-headed men relentlessly charged forward to attack. With the smoke now gone, they were no match for the dog-headed men. At that moment, Yan Hu, finally realizing the gravity of the situation, screamed, retreat, quickly. But it was already too late. The dog-headed men kept charging, attacking all of them. Yan Hu, seeing this, cursed inwardly, damn it, after all the effort to promote so many members to level 2, if they all die here, we'll have to return to level 1. This is a huge loss. At that moment, 2 of the dog-headed men had noticed his presence. They immediately charged towards Yan Hu and his remaining subordinate, attacking. He narrowly avoided being struck down. Yan Hu fled in a wild panic, running headlong away from the place. It seemed like he had run quite a distance, and now he was alone. Yan Hu, both terrified and exhausted, stopped and said, finally shook off those dog-head men. At that moment, a sound of footsteps was heard, followed by a voice. We meet again. Shai Feng appeared and said, Brother Tycoon, why are you alone? Where are your junior brothers? Did the dog-head men kill them all? Yan Hu, upon seeing him, was filled with rage and shouted, it's you. Immediately, he raised his weapon and attacked, shouting, dare to ply against me. His eyes, filled with killing intent, seemed like they wanted to kill. He swung a powerful blow at Shai Feng, but very quickly, Shai Feng dodged. Yan Hu, now quite flustered, could not see his figure and thought, where is he? Suddenly, Shai Feng appeared from behind and struck him. Shai Feng smirked and said, what are you hitting? I'm right behind you. Without hesitation, Yan Hu turned around, ready to attack him. He raised his weapon high, shouting madly, if I don't kill you and fall to level 0, I'll reverse my name. However, Shai Feng was as fast as lightning, constantly moving from one spot to another, attacking him relentlessly. At this moment, Yan Hu had been spun around for a while, panting heavily from exhaustion, yet he still had the strength to shout loudly, Kiddo, if you got the guts, don't hide anymore. Shai Feng, seeing this, said, all right, I'll stay still. Go ahead, hit me. Hearing this, Yan Hu became even more enraged and charged at him, shouting, "Watch how I'll take you down." However, Shai Feng easily dodged, and, with just a few swift strikes, launched a counterattack, causing Yan Hu's health to drop significantly. Yan Hu was furious but helpless, having been beaten to the point where he had no health left. Shai Feng sneered, "I just told you not to stay still, not that you couldn't fight back. How naive are you?" As Yan Hu gradually began to disappear, Shai Feng added, "Right, I really should thank Brother Tycoon for collecting so many minerals for me, saving me so much work." Before completely vanishing, Yan Hu was so enraged that his eyes widened as he yelled out his name, "Shai Feng, I won't let you off." Afterward, a system notification appeared on the status bar, stating that player Yi Feng had killed his companion. 3 seconds later, the companion would respawn at Red Leaf Town. Their level would drop by 1, and all their skill proficiency would decrease by 100. At this time, Yan Hu's subordinates had gathered around. He immediately ordered, "What are you standing there for? Check the bags and assess the losses." He then opened his system to check the items inside. Immediately after that, a heavy blow landed on his face. Yan Hu, enraged, gritted his teeth and shouted, "All my skill books are gone." Then, like a madman, he screamed, "Hurry up, we need to go to Dark Moon Valley right now. I have to kill that guy." At that moment, a system notification popped up, inviting him to join a call. He angrily yelled, "Who is it? Are you looking for trouble at a time like this?" The voice on the other end replied, "Yan Hu, it's been 1 day, and you're already so worked up." He immediately became nervous, scratching his head and said, "Brother Zhang, how is it you? I was just disciplining my subordinates. Don't take it personally, I wasn't talking about you." The person on the screen angrily retorted, "Disciplining your subordinates? Look at the mess you've made. See how shadow has developed in Red Leaf Town. You're still in the mood to show off? From now on, you're demoted from your captain position. If I come to Red Leaf Town, and you're still not level 2, then get lost. Shadow doesn't need a useless piece of trash like you." After saying that, the person hung up the call, leaving Yan Hu terrified. With no one left to vent his frustration on, he began screaming Shai Feng's name in a frenzy. By this time, only Haizi and Shai Feng remained. Shai Feng continued to pick up items, while Haizi, holding a large amount of loot in his hands, happily said, "Brother Feng, Yan Hu has given us a great gift. I can't even imagine what his face will look like when he's revived." Shai Feng happily replied, "I guess this time Yan Hu will be so mad, he'll blow a fuse." At that moment, the status bar displayed, "Chasing Wind Sword. Normal level, requires the profession of warrior, creates a series of powerful surprise attacks on enemies within a certain range, while also greatly increasing one's movement speed." Seeing this, Shai Feng spoke up, "This skill is specifically used to counter long-range attackers, and when necessary, it can also boost your speed. It's a signature move of the swordsman." Haizi, excited after hearing this, said, "At some point, get me a book on this." He laughed joyfully, thinking about the next time Yan Hu would come over with gifts. He continued walking, picking up items, while asking, "Brother Feng, why have I never seen this stone before? It's such a dark shade of green." Shai Feng glanced over and replied, "What you're holding is crystal, a rare mineral, with a drop rate of 1 in a million." Upon hearing this, Haizi's eyes lit up, and he exclaimed, "1 in a million? Then it must be a treasure worth a lot." Shai Feng responded, "Not right now. On this island it's not worth much, but as the game develops, its value will skyrocket. Anyway, you wouldn't understand now, but when the time comes, you'll get it." Haizi grinned and replied, "Got it, Brother Feng." Switching scenes, the two of them had gathered a fair amount of items. The blacksmith, seeing their haul, chuckled in praise. "Well done, young man." Then he continued, "You have completed the first step, but next, you must continue to prove your strength." At the same time, a notification appeared on the status bar. Hidden quest: Forge Path 2, kill the elite leader of the Doghead Man in the Red Star Mineral Cave. Time limit: 1 hour. He suddenly thought, the second phase of the quest is to kill the elite leader. The status bar has already started counting down. Shai Feng furrowed his brow and thought, "Why is this different from what I remember? In my previous life, I never heard of a second phase." His face briefly showed concern as he silently thought, although the elite leader of the Doghead Man is only level 5, it is a dungeon boss. Even a level 5 player must form a team to fight it. Haizi, noticing Shai Feng lost in thought, asked, "What's wrong, Brother Feng?" Shai Feng was startled and quickly responded, "It's nothing, just a slightly difficult quest." Upon hearing this, Haizi laughed and said, "With Brother Feng leading the team, no matter how tough the quest, we'll handle it." Shai Feng replied, "A few hours ago, you were too scared to go, and now you're so confident? For this quest, you must follow my commands strictly, no slack." The scene shifted as the two of them moved to the second level of the Red Star Mineral Cave. They were now inside the cave. Shai Feng drew his sword and said, "Let's get to work." He then unleashed his ultimate skill, Chasing Wind Sword, and charged straight at the enemies to attack. With just his own strength, Shai Feng quickly took down many Doghead men. At the same time, Haizi used his ultimate skill, Dark Shadow Arrow, and managed to strike down quite a few as well. Both of them coordinated exceptionally well, quickly causing the cave to become chaotic. Shai Feng raised his weapon and attacked them once more, followed by a vertical slash that completely took down the Doghead men. Haizi happily said, "It's just killing Doghead men. This task doesn't seem that difficult." Hearing this, Shai Feng reminded him, "Don't be careless. The real challenge is still ahead." Suddenly, a major disturbance occurred in the cave, and the ground began to shake violently. Haizi, slightly panicked, shouted, "Brother Feng, the boss is coming." Suddenly, a large Doghead man's foot appeared on the ground. Seeing this, Shai Feng said, "This is our real target for the mission." A massive and muscular Doghead man appeared right in front of them, looking incredibly fearsome. The status bar displayed, Doghead Man Leader, Level 1 Leader, Heavy Armor Damage Resistance Field, HP Regeneration every second, restoring 2% HP. Immune to knockback, stun, and other control skills, overwhelming attack, difficult to block or defend against. Haizi, seeing this, was horrified, and said, "What is this? 2000 HP, and it regenerates health by itself." Shai Feng's gaze remained unwavering as he said, "Don't forget, this mission has a time limit." At that moment, the status bar showed the countdown for the mission. 19 minutes, 40.7 seconds remaining. In front of them stood a mighty, solitary wolf, its roar echoing through the entire forest. Haizi tightly gripped the staff in his hands, trembling as he asked Shai Feng, "Brother Feng, do you think we can actually defeat this Doghead Man Leader? Not to mention its health and armor, just the axe it wields. Even a slight touch from it could kill us instantly." He firmly responded, "I don't know, but the consequences of failing the mission are serious. This hidden mission only has one chance. If we fail, we can never attempt it again." He immediately opened his bag and reached in, selecting a weapon, sparking with lightning around him. From the portal, Shai Feng slowly drew out a black sword and said, "We can only take the risk." However, he suddenly felt a tingling sensation crawl over his skin. Shai Feng recalled the history and the demonic origins of the black sword. The Red Blood War God once wielded the demon weapon, the Red Ghost large axe, right in the heart of the enemy's guild, slaughtering his way through all directions. He finally gained fame after a single battle and established a glorious warlord empire. Even so, he too faced a tragic end, like the hero of old. But I have also seen those who were betrayed by magic weapons, eventually becoming slaves to them. People call it yesterday's devil is God. Therefore, when Shai Feng held the Abyssal Blade magic weapon, the system appeared and asked if he wanted to bind a contract with it. He gripped the sword tightly and muttered to himself, "If those inexperienced fools can wield magic weapons, then how can I, after being reborn, fall behind those arrogant and prideful people?" With his determination, Shai Feng shouted out the binding command. The system immediately confirmed his order and began emitting streams of dark energy. As he was engulfed by the dark aura, the system warned Shai Feng, "Once the binding takes effect, it cannot be undone, and you will bear the consequences that may occur." And of course, he had mentally prepared for that bad outcome. Soon, the merging process was complete. Shai Feng and the magic weapon shared energy with each other to summon a powerful monster, a ghost dragon, which appeared and roared at the wolf. His body began to be enveloped by dark, demonic energy, transforming into a black armor. After a while, the system notified, "Shai Feng has successfully bound the Abyssal Blade magic weapon, and his level gradually dropped to 0. Haizi, looking at Shai Feng's level, asked in confusion, "Brother Feng, Why did you suddenly drop to level 0? Drenched in a mysterious black hue, he glanced at him and smiled, replying, "Don't worry, my current state is even stronger than before." Shai Feng's magic weapon held immense potential, exuding absolute killing intent, with 24 attack power, fast speed, bypassing level 5 monsters, double damage, reducing 30% of the enemy's strength and increasing the owner's skill levels and attributes. The wolf leader suddenly raised its axe high and let out a mighty roar. As lightning struck down, a magical circle appeared and summoned its brethren to fight alongside it. Under its command, they tightly gripped their weapons and charged crazily toward the two players. Shai Feng immediately raised his chin and said to Hide-Zi, "You temporarily step aside. Leave this to me." He immediately raised his hand and replied, "Got it, I fully agree." He stood alone, enveloped by mysterious light, unwavering before the massive enemy horde. The muscular warriors, each holding a greatsword, rushed in from all directions, creating an overwhelming and chaotic scene. With fiery eyes, he gripped his magic weapon sword tightly. Black light swirled around the blade, emanating a murderous aura that seemed to signify the rising darkness within Shai Feng. The sword slashed upwards, tearing the space apart with sharp purple streaks, a rapid and absolutely precise attack that sliced the enemies into pieces before they could even land. Hide-Zi watched this scene, his mouth agape in astonishment. So strong! A swing of the sword ripped through space, a blinding light descending onto the ground like the divine axe of a god. Behind Shai Feng stood the spirit of a giant white wolf, roaring with sharp, fiery eyes, exuding overwhelming momentum. It turned its face and looked at him. A colossal wolf warrior threw a powerful punch, and as it slashed across space, Shai Feng narrowly dodged beneath it. However, the fiery strike cleaved him in two. Hide-Zi panicked upon seeing this and shouted loudly, "Brother Feng." Suddenly, the darkness around him surged with overwhelming energy, and the purple-black magic spiraled around him, signaling a deadly move. This was Phantom Kill, which created a clone with 50% of his own stats, and most importantly, allowed for them to swap places with one another. This strange event made the wolf warrior stunned, eyes wide open. When it turned its head to look, Shai Feng was right behind it, ready to deliver the finishing blow with a strike. Shai Feng immediately landed a fatal blow to its head, dealing a total of 105 damage. Not stopping there, he continued swinging his sword wildly, delivering slashes with varying amounts of damage. Putting all his strength into it, Shai Feng raised his sword high and shouted out his strongest skill. A blazing slash, full of destructive power, tore through the space and struck directly at his opponent. A muscular werewolf warrior wielded a gigantic weapon. Amidst the deafening roars, its health bar gradually dropped, quickly nearing 0. The dog-head man's gaze was ferocious, filled with murderous intent, as if he wanted to tear the two apart. At this moment, it roared, increasing its internal power by 100%. Shai Feng looked at it, thinking, "The attack speed of this boss is very slow. Even if its attack power is higher, I can easily dodge." Then, it charged furiously toward him, attacking. As it reached him, Shai Feng dodged, causing it to strike the ground with a heavy blow. Continuing like this, the more it struck, the more Shai Feng dodged. Its eyes grew even fiercer as it activated its agility skill, increasing its attack speed by 100%. Shai Feng also seized the opportunity to rush in and strike it with multiple slashes. However, because its speed had increased, it became a little more challenging for him. He thought, "The attack speed is faster now." Hide-Zi at this moment launched an attack toward the beast's face, causing its health bar to drop. He was on one side, continuously using his ultimate skill, then shouted loudly, "Damn you! Take this hit from me!" But right after that, he felt disappointed and thought, "How embarrassing! My magic is no better than Feng's regular attack." At that moment, the beast turned its fierce eyes towards him. Shai Feng sensed the danger and immediately shouted, "Hide-Zi, run!" Soon after, the beast ferociously charged toward him to attack. Hide-Zi, now having fallen to the ground, said, "Oh my God, even a little bit of damage can draw hatred." Just as he was about to be struck with a painful blow, he closed his eyes, thinking, "It's over, my life ends here." However, just then, countless chains, infused with red poison, suddenly appeared and surrounded him. Hide-Zi opened his eyes to see what was happening, And to his surprise, the beast had been bound by those chains. An ultimate skill had been activated, Abyssal Bind, summoning chains to bind the target and reduce the target's defense by 100% for 3 seconds, with a 1-minute countdown. Shai Feng, quite exhausted, gripped his sword tightly and said, "That was too close." But soon after, the beast managed to break free, and the chains shattered. At that moment, Shai Feng leaped up to continue the attack. The beast immediately noticed his presence and shifted its target, focusing on him. With a sharp gaze, Shai Feng raised his sword high and used his ultimate skill, Chasing Wind Sword. Then, he immediately struck with a tremendous force towards the creature. At the moment Shai Feng was battling with it, Haizi grabbed his weapon, running while shouting, "Just run, we can't fight at this level." However, his recent attack only served to provoke its anger even more. At that moment, he was suddenly startled by something. Immediately after, a direct attack came towards him. Without hesitation, he dashed past it to counterattack. With inertia, Shai Feng quickly retreated to maintain his balance. The creature's mouth opened wide, its eyes burning with rage. It opened its mouth, releasing a massive force that gathered into a spherical shape. Next, hundreds of other creatures jumped out from it, charging towards him. These terrifying beasts frantically rushed towards Shai Feng to attack. At this point, he was startled. The boss was summoning minions to extend the time, and the task's time limit kept appearing on the status bar. Shai Feng's eyes became more determined, thinking, "I can't go on like this. I have no choice but to use that move." With his current psychic power controlling the 9 illusionary abyssal blades, he didn't know how long he could maintain it. And then, he performed his ultimate move, Psychic Power. It was a special attribute within the God's Domain neural system. Excessive consumption would cause intense pain to the player, and it was also a mechanism designed to protect players within God's domain. Unlike stamina, where a player becomes immobile once their stamina is exhausted, when psychic power is depleted, the player is forcibly ejected from the game by God's domain. In severe cases, it could even affect the player's health in real life. High-intensity combat and the use of certain special skills both accelerate the consumption of psychic power. At this moment, his sword was filled with energy, turning purple. Shai Feng thought, "There's no more time for thinking about anything else." He then cast a magic circle, and the 9 dragon slash activated, instantly creating the illusion of 9 abyssal blades for the user. Each illusionary sword could deal 30% damage and would last for 20 seconds, with a 5-minute countdown. At the same time, the summoned beasts charged forward wildly to attack. However, they were quickly defeated by his swords. The purple-infused blades flew swiftly, attacking them directly. At this point, his pupils also turned purple. Shai Feng thought seriously, these 9 swords are hard to control. Still, he did not stop and continued launching attacks. These attacks came at incredible speed, heading straight for the dog-head man. And at the same time, all of these attacks targeted its curse. The beast howled in pain, its health continuously dropping. However, Shai Feng did not stop and kept summoning more swords to strike at it. He struggled on, using everything he had to cast, and then shouted his final blow. But just then, something affected him, leaving him stunned. The swords he had just summoned shattered and broke in two. On the system status bar, a warning message kept appearing. Psychic power has been overconsumed. Psychic power warning. Players who do not respond will be forcibly ejected from the game and will enter a deep sleep state, unable to log in for a certain period of time. At this moment, Shai Feng had collapsed to the ground, clutching his head. Haizi approached and asked, "Brother Feng, are you all right?" And at that very moment, the creature seized the opportunity to move toward him. Seeing this, Haizi was extremely worried and suddenly shouted, "Brother Feng, don't push yourself. There's only 1 minute left in the mission. Remember, if you die here, it'll cost you more than it's worth." Shai Feng, exhausted, was breathing heavily. His mind kept replaying the memories before entering the game. Do I have to give up? They handed me the paper to sign. "Mr. Shai Feng, please sign. In my past life, I worked hard to build a kingdom for others, but I was discarded without a second thought." He recalled how they looked at that time. 5 million credit points, plus a villa should be enough for you to live out the rest of your life comfortably. A person should know when to be content. At that moment, Shai Feng had torn up the contract and said, "Now you want to kick me out like I'm a beggar." He wondered whether it was fate or the heavens that had guided him to this moment. His gaze became resolute, and his pupils turned red. He thought, how could I stop here? With that thought, Shai Feng immediately cast the Phantom Kill Magic Circle and shouted, I must change my fate. Right after that, his feet firmly planted on the ground. Shai Feng unleashed his ultimate move, Unleash Gravity, and charged toward the creature in a crazed attack. The beast was still standing motionless, preparing to attack him. Shai Feng, along with one of his clones, rushed forward to attack the creature. At that moment, it noticed and widened its eyes in surprise. However, immediately after, both of its eyes were struck, pierced directly. The beast roared in pain. Shai Feng then delivered several more fatal blows to it. As it launched an attack towards him, Shai Feng quickly dodged and landed a few more strikes. At this moment, Shai Feng's clone also helped him to attack the creature. Right then, it felt as if his strength had doubled. His eyes filled with murderous intent as he charged directly at the beast. Shai Feng's aura was now not only surrounded by a purple force, but also by a red-black hue. He performed his ultimate skill, Wind Pursuit Strike, and with a single blow, pierced straight through the beast's body. Immediately afterward, its body shattered into many parts. The system notification appeared on the status screen, reminding, you have killed the elite leader Doghead Man, level 5, experience bonus 500%, gained 2350 experience points. The time-limited quest has been completed. Congratulations! You are the first player to kill a monster leader in God's domain. The quality of items dropped by Doghead Man increased by 200%. Reputation of Star Moon Kingdom increased by 10 points. At this moment, Haizi sat huddled in a corner, feeling disappointed. I still couldn't help Brother Feng this time. After Shai Feng killed the Doghead Man leader, he felt exhausted due to the massive drain on his psychic power. As soon as the beast died, countless items appeared. Haizi, seeing this, ran over and shouted loudly, Brother Feng, your moves really make me admire you to the fullest. Shai Feng picked up an item and said, Haizi, the boss dropped this rare summoner skill book. You're lucky. Haizi sighed in disappointment. What good is luck? I've never been able to help. Haizi clenched his fist, bared his teeth, and said, Sigh, Brother Feng, teach me how to play a summoner. I want to get stronger so I can help you when the time comes. Shai Feng, hearing this, replied, All right, I'll first teach you how to allocate points. Haizi grinned happily and said, That's easy. Just put all the points into intelligence for the summoner. Shai Feng, hearing this, lightly tapped his forehead. He said, Who told you to put everything into intelligence? Haizi held his forehead and said, Isn't that the attacking class? Shai Feng, hearing this, helplessly said, The giant club flew in 5 minutes ago and almost took your life. Did you forget? At this, Haizi remembered and grinned awkwardly. I didn't forget. I almost died and came back to life. Immediately, Shai Feng crossed his arms and said, You're too confident. If I hadn't stepped in, you'd be dead. Haizi tilted his head and said, What's the point of having high damage if I lose my life? Listen to me, allocate some points to agility. It'll increase your movement speed and also speed up your spell casting. Immediately after, Shai Feng opened the items he had just acquired and said, The boss dropped quite a few items, and there's a magic item you can equip. Then he handed the book to Haizi and said, Take this rare skill book too, and learn it. At this moment, the status bar displayed the following information. Evil Whip, a common career rank skill, requires the summoner to channel for 3 seconds. It binds the target within a certain range with 5 thorns. If the target leaves the range, causing the thorns to break, each thorn will deal 20 points of base damage plus 30% of magical damage. Cooldown time, 20 seconds. He took the book and his eyes lit up with joy. Isn't this similar to Feng's super cool Abyssal Stun skill? Shai Feng noticed this and said, It's a bit different. Evil Whip requires a 3-second channeling time, so you need to plan ahead in order to control the enemy. Haizi, hearing this, happily nodded and said, I'll make sure to practice hard. At this moment, the status bar displayed the system notification. Equipped with leather armor, equipped with black iron gauntlet. On Haizi's side, it also displayed, equipped with violet bloodleggings, equipped with the blood moon armor. The scene then shifted to another location, where they both returned to the old house. The man praised, Young man, you done very well. He smiled and said, You have the qualifications to inherit my forging techniques. At the same time, the system status bar displayed. Completed hidden quest, Forge Path. The player has learned forging and has become a beginner forging apprentice, gaining the forging talent, Forging Genius, and received the reward, 10 units of 100 refinement steel. Seeing this, Haizi exclaimed with joy, Forging Genius. That skill's name sounds really powerful. Shaifeng then said, successfully forging has a probability of adding 2 points to your proficiency. Immediately, Haizi's expression turned from joy to disappointment as he said, 2 points? That doesn't seem to be very useful. Shaifeng, seeing this, seriously replied, don't underestimate these 2 proficiency points. To advance to a mid-level forging apprentice, you need 1,000 proficiency points, and forging common equipment only gives you 1 point of proficiency. He then explained, Forging Genius can significantly reduce the time and resources you need to level up. When that happens, you'll see just how useful it is. Hearing this, Haizi grinned widely and said, that sounds like some real talent. Haizi cheerfully asked, when will you forge some equipment for me to see, Brother Feng? Shaifeng sighed and said, I've only just started learning the skill. To forge equipment, I need to have the blueprints first. He then thought to himself, the Quiet Forest dungeon will drop blueprints for copper equipment, and new players will need this equipment at the lower levels. Not only can I level up my forging skill, but I can also make a great profit. Immediately after, Shaifeng turned to leave, not forgetting to say, let's go, Haizi. At this moment, the man had noticed the sword hanging by Shaifeng's side. He was taken aback, his eyes widening in shock. Then, he shouted loudly, please, stop. Both of them turned around. The man quickly said, young man, the sword at your waist, it's a magic weapon, right? That magic weapon is cursed by an evil spirit. He seemed to sense the dark aura surrounding Shaifeng and added, I fear the curse has already begun to backfire on its owner. Shaifeng, upon hearing this, thought to himself that perhaps the magic weapon had triggered an hidden storyline. The man's eyes brightened as he said, can I take a closer look? Shaifeng, hearing this, happily handed over the sword and said, please, feel free. The man took the sword and said, this sword was forged by the renowned blacksmith Ulysses from the fang of the Black Dragon King. It is ranked 31st among the 36 famous swords in God's domain. The fang of the Black Dragon King grants this sword immense power, but it also places a dark curse upon it. He gently touched the sword's tip and continued, after a certain period of time, the sword will backfire on its owner. If the backlash cannot be suppressed, the owner will suffer the curse of the Black Dragon King, and all attributes will be permanently reduced. He then said to Shaifeng, I fear the curse has already begun to affect its owner. Immediately, Shaifeng asked, is there any way to remove the curse? The man replied, no one can lift this curse. I can think of a way to lessen its effects, but it would require immense power. He then said, you need to find a stone called the Lucky Stone. Only it can counter the curse. However, the Lucky Stone is incredibly rare. It can be found but not sought after. Shaifeng calmly said, just give the Lucky Stone to Grand Master Jack. Haizi immediately said, Brother Feng, where are we going to find the Lucky Stone? Shaifeng then replied, isn't it in your bag? The crystal. Upon hearing this, Haizi took out the stone and said, isn't the crystal called the Lucky Stone? Then Haizi thought, could it be that the Lucky Stone is another name for crystal? As soon as he saw Haizi pull out the stone, the man was extremely surprised and immediately turned to praise him. You truly are extraordinary. At this moment, Shaifeng seriously thought, in my previous life, many years after the opening of God's domain, these extremely rare yet useless stones were suddenly renamed by the system as Lucky Stones. In an instant, the demand skyrocketed, and in no time, they became the hard currency of God's domain. Shaifeng then said, thank you, Grand Master. He smiled and replied, no trouble, no trouble. It is an honor for me to personally forge a magic weapon. Then he began to open the system and started forging the sword. At this point, his power increased greatly. The progress bar also displayed a 20% forging progress. The block of iron lowered, and he began to forge the sword again. After a while, the system displayed, forging successful. The knowledgeable forger of the magic weapon type, a single sword, with no level requirements. Attack power 24, enhances all attributes by 10, Attack speed +3. Divine Might ignores level 5 monsters. 15% chance of doubling damage. 10% chance to cause the cloud curse. Reducing all attributes of the enemy by 30% for 20 seconds. The owner of this weapon must be a swordsman, with all skills increased by 2 levels, adding 2 points of free attributes upon leveling up, and other features that have not been unlocked. Shai Feng picked up the sword to examine it, wiping sweat from his forehead as he smiled and said, "It's done. Now the curse of the Abyssal Blade has been controlled." He then stored the sword and said, "Thank you, Grand Master." After that, the two of them left. He politely nodded his head in farewell. At this moment, a notification appeared on the status bar, and he recognized the male warrior from the town hall earlier. He had even pointed out the grinding spot to him. In their chat conversation, the player said, "My big brother and 3 other friends have reached level 2. Do you want to join us for the Quiet Forest dungeon?" Shai Feng replied, "I have a summoner on my team, so the 6 of us can form a party. By the way, a player I know who participated in the beta shared a lot of tips about clearing the Quiet Forest dungeon with me." The player responded, "I didn't expect you to know a B-tier player as well. Then, we'll follow your lead." Shai Feng answered, "But I have one condition. The swordsman and summoner equipment drops will be reserved for us to pick first." The player was silent for a moment before replying, "All right, we'll wait for you at the dungeon entrance." Then, Shai Feng turned to say, "Someone scheduled us for the dungeon run. Let's head to Quiet Forest, while we still have time." Haizi asked, "We need to team up with others. Can't we handle it ourselves?" Shai Feng replied, "Yeah, Quiet Forest is a multiplayer dungeon. You need a certain number of players to enter, and it also increases the success rate." At this point, the scene switched to another location, where a voice rang out, "The Quiet Forest team is lacking damage." A large crowd had gathered there, and someone shouted, "4 people short of 2, need a skilled leader, and missing 1 tank." At that moment, a person named Lonely Snow raised their hand and said, "Big brother, thank heaven and earth, you're finally here. The grinding spot you recommended is amazing. I've been grinding on my own and leisurely reached level 2. Lonely walked over, scratching his head and grinning as he said, "My 3 friends had to put in a lot of effort to reach level 2. With a commander, we'll definitely be able to clear this dungeon." At that moment, another person named Overreacher spoke up. "Is this the expert you were talking about? There are 2 more people here." Expansive Skynet and Wordless Summer Night said, "Go ahead and join the team first." Then one of them suddenly looked at his level and said, "Level 1. Another person, annoyed, said, "Tatch, we've been waiting for so long, and we're welcoming a level 1 expert." The other person sneered and said, "The 2 of us at level 2 will lead you through the dungeon, and you still want to take the swordsman and summoner gear? Forget it. Do you think we're idiots?" Summer Night chimed in, "Why isn't the so-called expert saying anything? Or are you going to explain why the server has been open for so long, and you're still at level 1? Wordless Summer Night also pointed at Shai Feng and said, "Someone like you dares to lead us through the dungeon. Maybe you should take a good look at yourself first." After hearing those mocking and scornful words, Shai Feng remained silent and simply opened the system. He then said to Haizi, "It's better if we withdraw the team." Upon seeing this, the other person said, "Tetch, at least you know your limits." The young Lonely Snow called out, "Expert, big brother." The other person then threatened, "Lonely, if you want to follow him, you can go. I won't stop you." Shai Feng immediately said, "Haizi, let's go. Don't mind them." Lonely Snow, upon hearing this, showed a brief expression of discomfort as he watched him leave. Then he turned back and said, "Sorry Skynet, I will follow that expert." The others, hearing him, mocked, "Lonely, you're too naive. That Shai Feng guy is definitely a scammer. Forget about him, he'll regret it." Lonely ignored their words and ran after the 2, shouting, "Expert, wait for me." When Lonely caught up, he said, "Big brother expert, I want to join your team." Shai Feng happily agreed, "All right." Haizi, excited, put his arm around Lonely's shoulders and said, "Looks like you have a good eye. Following Brother Feng won't disappoint you." Shai Feng turned and said, Haizi took out the staff, activating all the special effects of the equipment. Upon hearing this, Lonely smiled and said, "Got it." Next, Haizi took the staff out from his inventory. Lonely's eyes lit up with excitement. On their side, a voice shouted, The expert is leading the team. Wait up. The group of earlier mockers sneered, even scoffing at the idea of an expert leading the team. That Shy Feng guy was really showing off. At this moment, one person said, Skynet boss, quickly look at the summoner next to that inexperienced guy. Their equipment must be extraordinary. Upon hearing this, Skynet turned to look over in that direction. Hai Zi, holding the staff, shouted loudly, expert leading the team. Hurry up. Wordless Summer Knight covered his mouth and laughed, saying it seems that when the team was formed, that summoner was already level 3. Skynet, after glancing over, angrily turned and shouted, Idiot, why didn't you say so earlier? The person named Night Summer immediately grinned and said, so what if that summoner is even more powerful? Their team leader is just a level 1 weakling. Overreacher then proposed an idea. Let's exchange all the mage items that drop in the dungeon. Maybe we can attract him that way. Skynet, hearing this, smirked and said, that's not a bad idea. He then opened the system and quickly typed in the chat, there's hope, there's hope. But Hai Zi only replied with a single word, get lost, leaving both of them stunned, while Mike Summer covered his mouth and laughed. Skynet angrily shouted, damn it, why are you laughing? Night Summer grinned and scratched his head, thinking, perfect, no one is going to compete with me for the gear. He then looked over and saw Hai Zi sticking his tongue out and giving them the middle finger. He gritted his teeth and said, damn it, such an ungrateful fool. At this moment, someone announced, the expert leading the team for Quiet Forest is missing a healer and a tank. The other 3, hurry up and join. The people nearby sneered when they saw Shy Feng. A level 1 wants to join the Quiet Forest dungeon? Do you want us to carry you? The announcer also commented, a level 1 wants to enter the dungeon. Lonely sighed and said, looks like we can't find anyone. Shy Feng remained calm and said, don't rush. Let's take our time. Upon hearing that, he looked around and asked, where is everyone? Suddenly, a group of people rushed over, surprising Lonely. What's going on? The group of people arrived and displayed an almost fanatical admiration for someone's appearance. Hai Zi, seeing this, gasped in shock. No way. Am I dreaming? At this moment, a person stepped out from the crowd. A girl with a cold, unpredictable aura and long black hair. At the same time, 2 more girls appeared. Zhao Yu spoke up. There are always ugly people everywhere trying to feast on swan meat. The girl beside her, Zhao Yu asked, Sister Yu, how did we end up here? The crowd madly chased after the 3 girls with obsession, shouting loudly, ah, Miss Gentle Snow, Goddess, Miss Gentle Snow, please come here. The girl with the proud demeanor earlier was Bai King Shu. At this moment, Shy Feng was extremely surprised to see her. Bai King Shu, why is she here too? Shy Feng wondered. Hai Zi's eyes lit up with infatuation upon seeing Bai King Shu. Suddenly, a direct hit landed on him. Shy Feng struck him on the head, causing him to stagger. The others, looking equally smitten, said, as long as I get to team up with Bai King Shu, I'd settle for just gold. Are you even good enough? Shy Feng scoffed. She needs an expert like me, a top-tier player. Xiao Yu saw this and turned to say, Sister Yu, these people all want to invite us. Yu turned her head back and contemptuously said, ha, a bunch of fools. There are no experts here. At that moment, the guy named Skynet appeared, holding a beetle in his mouth, and said, hello, Goddess. I am the assassin expert, Expansive Skynet, certainly the best candidate your country is looking for. My 2 teammates are also formidable. He continued, if we form a team, we will definitely be able to clear this dungeon. Stupid fool, just a light fan. I can't even speak properly. Seeing this, Yu became enraged, activated her martial technique, and shouted, how dare you call yourself a top expert? Get lost, or I'll make you regret it. He listened, and then fearfully answered with a yes. The 2 people beside him said, boss, you're so embarrassed. He immediately shouted, shut up, you fool. The crowd around them saw this, and cheered even louder. The girl is so fierce, can we be friends with the goddess? Yu angrily turned around and yelled, you all too, get out of here. Xiao Yu sighed and said, Sister Yu, you scared all the men away. She didn't care to respond. Heck, I only chased away the trash. Hai Zi was surprised and said, That big-chested girl is tough. Shai Feng, upon hearing this, thought to himself, in his previous life, it wasn't without reason that Zhao Yu had the nickname the Flying Witch. He recalled the memories from his past life, remembering that she had once been teased by the president of the Central Plains Clash Guild, resulting in the dissolution of the guild, which had more than 10,000 members, overnight. The president was hunted down by Zhao Yu to the point of losing his rank, and he was never able to set foot in God's domain again. That was the end of that incident. Over here, Bag King Zhu looked at Shai Feng and said, "That guy named Yi Feng didn't even glance at me." But just at that moment, he suddenly turned his head. Yu asked, "King Zhu." She looked at Shai Feng and replied, "That guy is a bit strange." Yu turned to look and asked, "Which guy?" When she followed King Zhu's gaze, she saw Shai Feng and suddenly said, "King Zhu, you're not interested in that guy who's only at level 1, are you?" Yu then said, "He's definitely trying to get our attention. That's why he ignored us. I've seen every trick men pull." Then, King Zhu, as if she hadn't heard anything Yu said, walked forward. Yu, surprised and unsure of what she was about to do, called out to King Zhu. At that moment, the group headed towards Shai Feng. In front of many onlookers, Yu insulted. A level 1 player dares to enter the quiet forest. Upon hearing this, Shai Feng responded, "If I dared to recruit someone, of course I would have a way to clear the dungeon." Shai Feng happily made an offer. "Miss Bai, would you be interested in joining us?" Yu, upon hearing this, angrily shouted, "How dare you speak to King Sui like that?" On the other hand, King Zhu said, "This Yi Feng, though only level 1, has a teammate who is a summoner with 3 pieces of copper equipment. He must have some skills." At this point, she pointed to the sword Shai Feng was carrying and said, "Look at his weapon." Yu looked and then said, "That ridiculous thing is considered a weapon. What kind of game would intentionally design such an ugly weapon? Yi Feng's weapon is definitely not ordinary." She then pointed at him and said, "Hey, how do you know how to clear that dungeon? No one has ever cleared the quiet forest." Shai Feng replied, "Test information." King Stu, upon hearing this, thought seriously. Since God's domain had opened, she had never heard of any player tester publicly leaking game information. Yu, upon hearing him, sneered, "Test information, huh? Most likely a scam." Shai Feng replied, "Whether you believe it or not is up to you. I can share the information with you for free." Then Shai Feng continued, "The monsters in the quiet forest aren't strong, but the frightening part is that once you enter, players will get lost in the dense forest filled with traps." Then he analyzed for everyone. After entering the dungeon, not even the monster's shadow could be seen, and more than half had already fallen. At this moment, the image of a player frantically running to escape appeared. Where is the exit? Even if a player is lucky enough to survive, they can only commit suicide to return to the city because they can't find the exit. One person, after hearing this, angrily shouted, "Don't scare others." Someone else, hearing this, scratched their nose and asked, "Is that true or false?" Immediately, Shai Feng pointed towards the person who had just exited the dungeon and said, "Did I deceive anyone? Go ask those who just respond if you want to know." King Zhu, upon hearing this, complimented, "Interesting." Yu, startled, said, "King Zhu, that scammer is definitely just bluffing." She then walked over to face Shai Feng and said, "It seems you know the structure of the quiet forest very well. If we don't team up with you, we will definitely not be able to complete this dungeon." Shai Feng immediately replied, "Of course, it's still not too late to turn back now. Miss Bai." Then, King Zhu turned to say, Yu, team up with them." At this point, for some reason, when Yu looked at Shai Feng, she blushed and replied, "Yes." Yu, somewhat unwilling, said, "I don't believe this scammer. He definitely has other intentions with you." King Zhu, while opening the system, said, "Whether it's a scam or not, we'll find out once we enter the dungeon." At this moment, the system notification appeared. Bag King Zhu, level 2 warrior, joined the team. Xiao Yu joined the team. Zhao Yu, level 2 mage, joined the team. Everyone there was shocked, their mouths hanging open. The most despised team had combined with the most respected team, a combination no one had ever heard of. Haizi was extremely delighted and excited upon hearing this. An Feng, You are really amazing. You even managed to invite the goddess Bai, King Zhu, into the team. Shai Feng immediately replied, when the time comes, perform well, don't embarrass yourself. Turning around, Lonely also expressed his satisfaction by giving a thumbs up. At this moment, the team stepped through the portal into the dungeon, and a system notification appeared, displaying difficulty level options: normal, hard, hell. Then, each person entered one by one. Finally, Yu Ru and Lonely were both somewhat surprised by the scenery inside. Everyone was already inside the dungeon. At this point, the system displayed a notification. Entering Quiet Forest at Hell difficulty. Rewards increased by 30%. Rare loot increased by 30%. Death penalty increased by 100%. Yu Ru, seeing this, angrily shouted, "What? You chose Hell difficulty?" Everyone was extremely surprised. Haizi also gasped and shouted, "You, and Feng, you chose Hell difficulty." Yu Ru, furious, said, "If you dare mess with us, I'll send you straight to Hell." King Su was also very surprised. She Feng turned back and patted Haizi on the shoulder, saying, "Don't worry, I won't do anything I'm not sure about." Lonely, seeing the surroundings, asked, "Bro, master, which way should we go?" Shai Feng turned around and said, "The map of Quiet Forest is difficult to navigate, easy to get lost, so everyone needs to stay close to me." Then, he led the way, and after speaking, the other two immediately followed. Yu Ru turned around and asked, "Does Sister King Sui really have to follow us?" She nodded and said, "Let's trust him just this once." Then, the three girls followed Shai Feng's directions one after another. To clear the Quiet Forest instance, the Shadow Guild had gathered over 100 players to enter and split into teams to explore the paths. In the end, they managed to map out the entire Quiet Forest. There were a total of 36 paths in the Quiet Forest, with some paths crossing and repeating, but only 3 paths led to the first boss. At this moment, everyone silently followed Shai Feng's guidance. Yu Ru spoke up and asked, "Are you sure the path Yi Feng is leading us on is the right one?" Bai King Su replied, "The path he chose is fine. We've avoided all the patrolling NPCs along the way." She continued, "If you look, the patrol team just passed the path we took. If we had been a minute late, we would have had to fight them." Yu Ru, hearing this, said, "They're just small monsters. Why should we be afraid?" Shai Feng turned around and said, "The NPCs don't drop anything useful, so there's no need to fight them." Hearing this, Yu Ru stuck out her tongue and made a funny face, thinking, he's just afraid we'll notice how weak his attack is. Haizi, following behind, laughed and said, "I could tell just by looking that we're approaching the boss spawn point." But when they actually arrived, he was very surprised and asked, the first boss?" At that moment, the ground suddenly trembled, as if something was about to happen, and everyone felt a shiver run through their bodies. What's going on? Seeing this, Shai Feng seriously gave the order, preparing himself. The boss was about to appear. Suddenly, something emerged from the ground. From that spot, a monstrous creature leaped into the air. Immediately, it landed on the ground. The system announced, "Wilmy, level 3 leader boss." Wilmy is a vicious rabbit. Its hands have sharp steel claws, and it loves to treat others to a lavish feast of fresh blood. A giant gray rabbit with blood-red eyes, filled with menace, raised its clawed hand to threaten them. Then, a system notification sounded. "Please don't misunderstand. This is just a carnivorous rabbit." It stood there, gently licking its long tongue. Lonely, seeing this, asked, "Are we skipping the small monsters and going straight to the boss?" Shai Feng replied, "That's right. The small monsters drop too little loot. We'll get much more benefit from killing the boss." At this moment, both Yu Ru and King Zhu had already assumed fighting positions. Shai Feng turned around and reminded Lonely Snow, "This time you'll be the MT temporarily. Make sure to draw Wilmy's aggro. Everyone else, be careful not to let it OT." After hearing this, Yuger asked in confusion, "What is MT?" MT, or main tanker, is a role taken by characters with high health and defense. Their main task is to attract monsters' attacks. The MT draws the boss's aggro, allowing other players to attack safely. Or over-taunted, happens when another player has higher aggro than the MT. In this case, the boss will shift its attacks to that player. And since our health is low, we would easily be killed by the boss. Shay Fang firmly said, "Don't worry, I'll tell everyone what to do later, everyone go ahead." Next, Lonely took the lead, sword in hand, shouting as he charged forward. Shay Fang, standing aside, saw this and sighed, saying, "Why the rush? Zhao Yu hasn't even buffed you yet." Hearing this, Lonely realized he had rushed and shouted loudly, "I can't stop my charge now." Lonely charged quickly but unfortunately tripped over a rock and fell. The monster, seeing this, scratched its head in confusion. But after a moment, it swung its arm and lunged forward, its eyes glowing red, sharp teeth bared. Lonely, seeing the sharp claws about to strike, turned pale and shouted, "This is the end for me." In a desperate moment, Haizi quickly grabbed his staff to summon the summoning circle. "Watch me," he said. Using the evil doctor move, tentacles rose from the ground, binding the monster. Lonely, having narrowly escaped death, turned around joyfully and shouted, "Thanks, Haizi." Taking advantage of the monster's immobility, he charged in recklessly. Lonely gritted his teeth and slammed his head hard into the monster's head. Immediately after, both of them were knocked backward and lost a bit of health. From a distance, Yu spoke, "Are your people using themselves as a human shield?" At this moment, Yu raised her hand to cast a healing spell on Lonely. Soon, his health bar was fully restored. He lay on the ground, raising his hand straight up and saying, "Thank you." By now, Haizi's binding spell no longer had an effect on the monster. It struggled with all its might to break free. Haizi shouted, "I can't hold on much longer." Lonely sat up, raised his hand to wipe the sweat, and spoke, "I'm here." After speaking, he grabbed his sword and charged forward, delivering a series of sharp slashes. Soon after, the two of them clashed fiercely. From a distance, Shay Fang chuckled. Lonely Snow's movements weren't bad. Lonely drew the monster's attention to create an opening for him to strike from behind. Suddenly, Yu summoned a large fireball in her hand and charged forward, shouting, "Get out of my way." Immediately, she used the explosive flame technique to hurl it at the monster. Lonely quickly dodged to the side just in time. The fireball soared toward the boss, creating a massive explosion. Shay Fang, witnessing this, was also astonished. Yu stood there, hand on her hip, laughing loudly. "The attack power from me is still impressive." However, after the attack, the boss remained still, staring at her with piercing eyes. The strike had triggered a surge of power in the boss. Willie entered a berserk state, with 30% increased damage and 30% increased speed. Shay Fang was left speechless, then said, "Zhao Yu, your attack damage from just now was way too high." King Sui also noticed the situation and added, "So it seems the boss's focus is now on you." Yu, looking confused, pointed at herself and replied, "Me." At this moment, Willie charged forward with a ferocious attack, and she screamed, "This is bad, it's numb." After landing her strike on the boss, Yu realized her mistake. The magic damage from earlier was too high, and now the boss had shifted its target to her. Willie charged at her, with claws glowing as she stood on guard, fully alert. Suddenly, Shay Fang instantly unleashed his finishing move, Thundering Flash, striking the back of the Wilmy. The gigantic Wilmy was hit, and its front legs were blasted away by a powerful force. Green energy flashed from the wound, allowing her to narrowly escape death. Yu slowly opened her eyes and peered at the situation. The Wilmy ground its teeth and glared behind it. Shay Fang hurriedly drew out his magic weapon to block it in time. He immediately announced to everyone, "After the rampage, the boss's damage is too high to withstand. My agility is high, so let me draw its aggro." As per Shay Fang's wishes, the Wilmy's eyes flashed, and it charged at him in a frenzy. King Su, seeing this, suddenly shouted at him, "Yi Feng, be careful." The massive Wilmy swooped down with a powerful claw swipe, creating a bright arc of purple-pink light. Meanwhile, Shay Feng was knocked back by the violent green energy, losing control of his body midair. He landed at a dizzying speed, holding his long weapon, crouched low to the ground, creating splashes of water and shards flying up, exuding strength and agility. In the midst of the wreckage, Shay Feng, holding his weapon, directed a sharp gaze toward the Wilmy, which soared into the sky. A brilliant green light tore through the air. The Wilmy, with its fiery purple eyes, charged forward, surrounded by dark purple energy, exuding a sense of death and extreme danger. and unleashed the finishing move, Death Scythe of Devouring. Willie unleashed a lethal strike, a swirl of purple energy spiraling like a sharp blade, tearing through space with an overwhelming force. Shi Feng stood firm amidst the raging storm, raising his hand high to create an energy shield, blocking the mighty purple attacks, showcasing his resilience and extraordinary skill. Willie's foot slammed down, causing the ground to crack open, debris flying in all directions, demonstrating its overwhelming strength and terrifying threat. Willie spun like a whirlwind, surrounded by the powerful purple energy, shaking the ground, causing rocks to shatter, creating a scene that was both powerful and fearsome. Shi Feng's eyes widened as he recognized the deadly move from Willie charging towards him. He was facing a powerful attack from the wolf. The purple energy erupted around him, sending shockwaves and cracking the ground beneath. The distance between them indicated that Shi Feng was ready to endure the strike and might be preparing for a counterattack. Shi Feng unleashed a powerful strike, with a burst of blue-white light erupting around him. The force of the attack caused an explosion of energy that pushed everything around him back. Shi Feng appeared with a determined and resolute expression. The surrounding purple energy conveyed a sense of power and eruption. Suddenly, a foot rushed in to support him. Bai King Zui appeared with strength and agility, rushing in to aid Shi Feng. Her kick sent Wilmy flying far away, displaying her incredible strength and combat skills. She said to him, "I'm here to help you." The scene was full of drama as Wilmy was sent flying, creating explosions of dust and shattered rocks. After being kicked far away by Bai King Su, this Wilmy still remained extremely aggressive. Despite the powerful attack, it showed its ferocity and refused to give up. On the other hand, Yu Ru was casting a healing spell on everyone. While performing the life recovery, Shi Feng quickly got up and sent a message to everyone. The boss is weakening. Its defense will drop sharply. Everyone take advantage of the time to attack. Shi Feng glanced at Yu Ru, and then reminded everyone, "Remember, don't let it go overtime this time." Yu Ru blushed on the outside because of her mistake, but inside, she was fuming with anger. Damn it, that guy dares to lecture me. Thus, his team continued to attack the boss, lowering its health bar. Haizi tried to encourage the team. "Keep it up, the boss's health is almost gone." Shi Feng immediately used a cutting strike to fling the Winby rabbit into the air. Yu Ru looked strong and decisive. "Don't underestimate me." The flame explosion technique with its blazing fire effect and the powerful movement of the skill made the scene even more impressive. A series of explosions surrounded the area of the Wilmy rabbit, dealing massive damage to it. The Wilmy rabbit was killed, and dozens of pieces of equipment fell to the ground. Haizi in Lonely Snow immediately rushed towards the pile of items, ready to divide the loot. There's definitely going to be a lot of good equipment here. However, Shi Feng immediately stopped their intentions. "Hold on to the loot. Everyone quickly recover your state." Thus, everyone took out healing potions to recover from their injuries. Shi Feng went to inform everyone. "The final boss of the dungeon will strike before the players can react, but as long as we maintain a steady attack, that boss won't be difficult at all." Yu Ru, upon hearing this, couldn't help but feel a chill. "It strikes before we can react. Why is that?" Suddenly, a pair of powerful legs from the Wilmy rabbit, with sharp claws, slammed into the ground amidst a scene of shattered rocks and tension. The Wilmy rabbit was entering the second phase of the battle. The entire frame was filled with bright red light, with intense rays of energy exploding from the center, creating a sense of pressure and danger. The Wilmy rabbit had evolved into its second phase, with golden armor protecting its shoulders and chest. It had white fur, bright red eyes, and a ferocious expression, its mouth wide open in a growl. The status bar in the lower corner displayed a level of 3, and its health bar had significantly decreased, indicating it had just gone through a fierce battle, but was still very dangerous. However, what was even more terrifying were the fierce glances and savage smiles of Shi Feng's team members. The Wilmy rabbit, confused, looked at them with a question mark over its head. "Let's go." Without hesitation, Shi Feng led the charge, all of them armed and rushing forward to attack. The Wilmy rabbit didn't even have time to swing its weapon, only managing to turn its head and flee with its mouth wide open. However, Shi Feng quickly caught up, leaping up with a battle cry. A huge explosion suddenly occurred. Dust and debris filled the forest, and the scene began to fade. The Wilmy rabbit had just evolved, and was already killed by the whole team, indicating that the ambush on the Willy Rabbit had been a success. Two ancient books, shimmering with an eerie purple light, slowly rose from between the rubble, radiating a mysterious force, as if containing knowledge forgotten for thousands of years. From the depths of the earth, a brilliant red sword with a golden hilt, adorned with sharp wing-like patterns, stretched up to the sky. Two helmets, one pure silver white, the other dark and full of mystery, bowed before the sword's power. Shai Feng's team stood in the middle of the desolate battlefield, surrounded by radiant, rare items. Haizi exclaimed, "Did the Hell difficulty dungeon drop so many good items?" Bai King Zhu firmly kept her word, but allowed Shai Feng to choose the loot first. "I said I would keep my promise, so the equipment and items here are for the three of you to choose from first." Filled with joy, Shai Feng opened the item interface, thrilled to have received a blueprint for crafting powerful equipment. "This is great. I got a crafting blueprint from just one run." Haizi and Lonely were eagerly checking the list of items they had received after the battle. Their expressions clearly showed their excitement and anticipation. Haizi equipped the Beast of the Color Guard and the shadow-colored magic artifact, and learned the Hellfire Blaze robe skill. Lonely donned red armor and held a sword, exuding confidence after learning the full Wind Slash skill and equipping the Steel Iron Great Sword. Yu Ru, on the other hand, felt disappointed as the good items had already been taken by others. The good items must have been taken by them already. Yu Ru smiled brightly and praised, "If it weren't for Shai Feng leading, we wouldn't have been able to clear the dungeon. But they made the right choice and roles." Xing Su, with her sharp eyes, looked surprised as she checked the item list on the screen. She appeared grateful and said, "Thank you." The system displayed the item Pharmaceutical Potion, Primary Strength Potion. Yu Ru looked astonished and asked, "Are you leaving this precious potion for us?" Her expression clearly showed her surprise and gratitude. Shi Feng spoke confidently, emphasizing, "You've all put in quite a bit of effort for this dungeon run." His voice rang out like a declaration of his strength and dominance. Yu Ru, her bright green eyes wide with amazement, had her face reflecting utter surprise. Her lips slightly parted as if she wanted to say something, but hadn't yet spoken. At the entrance of the Quiet Forest dungeon, a group of people stood before the gate, discussing which pioneer teams might succeed in passing the first challenge. "The elite group from the Heavens Monarch Guild is here. They'll definitely be the first to clear the Quiet Forest dungeon." "No way. I believe the Ranger Alliance will clear it first." In the sky, the words "Challenge Successful" blazed brightly, announcing that Shai Feng's team had become the first to clear the dungeon. The people around seemed stunned by this achievement, highlighting his excellence. Three men stood in shock, their eyes wide open, mouths agape in complete astonishment. Shai Feng's team stepped out from the glowing gate, their presence regal and full of confidence. One of them, standing in front, called out, "Look, the Yi Feng team is here." While others watched with a mixture of admiration and a hint of caution. They've all changed to new gear. So impressive. Shi Feng, with his cold demeanor, was having a conversation with King Zhu. She suggested, "Would you like to join our devouring god serpent?" But he gently declined, saying, "I'm used to being on my own, not interested for now." She didn't show any signs of displeasure and maintained a respectful attitude, responding, "It's fine if you don't want to join. I respect your decision." She then revealed further, "There's one more thing. In 3 days, our devouring god serpent is preparing to participate in the 20-player dungeon, the Dark Moon Tomb. I wonder if you'd be interested." Shai Feng paused to think, his gaze slightly uncertain, and asked, "That dungeon requires a level 5 character to enter. Are you sure you can gather a 20-player group?" King Su was mysterious, yet there was a sharpness and pride in her response as she confidently affirmed, "Are you joking? We are devouring god serpent." Devouring God Serpent wasn't just a guild for one game. It was a leading guild organization in the world of the dozen or so virtual reality games currently being released on the market. Since the launch of God's Domain, financial corporations had flooded into the new world, hoping to establish a foothold in the emerging virtual world market. Devouring God Serpent was no exception. They were determined to use real-world financial tactics and invest the strongest forces into the world of God's Domain. Gathering a 20-person team within 3 days was not a difficult task for them. A moment later, King Sui no longer carried a cold or authoritative demeanor, but instead expressed a friendly attitude. "Let's be friends. We can stay in touch anytime." Shi Feng stood facing the two girls, his gaze filled with confidence. "I believe in the abilities of the Devouring God Guild. If you let me choose the swordsman equipment and sell tickets in advance, then save me a spot." Yu-Ru immediately reacted. "Don't you know how to be humble?" He proudly replied, "No problem." Haizi smiled excitedly, his eyes glowing brightly. "Brother Feng is amazing, becoming friends with the ice goddess." A system interface notification in the game showed that some characters had left the team, specifically Zhao Yu-Ru, and King Zhu. A group of people stood facing each other in a vast natural space. The ones who participated in the dungeon with King Zhu are them, right? Yes, it's those three. The atmosphere suddenly became intimidating, their faces shrouded in darkness. With only their glowing red eyes burning fiercely, Haizi and Lonely stammered, Brother Feng, the way those players are looking at us is a bit strange." Shai Feng immediately rushed forward, his body brimming with strength, moving at incredible speed, leaving a trail of dust behind. "Run quickly!" He and his teammates ran for their lives. Behind them, a group of armored warriors chased closely. "How did you all get past Quiet Forest? Which path did you take at the crossroads? How did you avoid those traps?" A glowing portal appeared between the rocks. "This is a teleportation gate leading to a high-level dungeon, Dark Moon Valley, recommended for level 4 players. This indicates that it is a difficult mission, and only strong players would dare to enter." Lonely, exhausted, leaned back against a rock. "Why aren't there any other players here? Couldn't it be just us doing the dungeon?" Shi Feng stared at the distant sky and seriously said, "Anyway, the players are still advancing through the Quiet Forest level 2. So it is very rare for players to actively attempt a level 4 dungeon." Suddenly, from the distant cliff, a figure hurriedly ran over, speaking in a stuttering voice. "Admit me too." Shai Feng looked in the direction of the voice, and felt a sense of familiarity. "Ketla, this name sounds so familiar," he thought. His face immediately showed surprise when he saw this player. That's right, Berserker Furious Bear Sovereign. He's the one ranked 15th on the Berserker leaderboard of Star Moon Kingdom. Keelal panted heavily, looking at him excitedly and saying, "Finally, I've found someone." Shai Feng recalled the somewhat subdued past event concerning him. In the early days, Keelal was always sluggish and discouraged, even being kicked out by a third-rate guild with no sense of vision. Shai Feng suddenly remembered a mysterious dark warrior clad in pitch-black armor with sharp lines. Later, during a time of spiritual glory, he changed his name to Furious Bear Sovereign and immediately shone brightly. He then smiled with a hidden meaning, his gaze sharp as one who always calculated everything. "Right now, Furious Bear Sovereign hasn't joined Heaven's Paradise yet. If I could recruit him to follow me, wouldn't it make future dungeon runs much easier?" They then gathered around Keelal, standing in the dark cave. He recounted his arduous journey. "I've been fighting monsters all the way here, trying to find a team, but I couldn't find anyone. Thank God, I finally met you guys." Haizi listened coldly, but there was also a sense of respect. He asked directly, "You fought monsters all the way here?" Keelal looked extremely excited and full of energy. He patted his chest and bragged about how tough and strong he was, thanks to all the rough encounters. The other two stood beside each other, their expressions incredulous. Haizi's mouth hung open, eyes wide in disbelief. "Only heaven knows how many blows you've taken. You're so tough." Lonely was so shocked, he couldn't find the words. "How did you survive all the way here? Your survival skills must be incredible." He suddenly came up with a joke, suggesting that Keela's older brother, a master, should use him as a meat shield. A blue notification box appeared, just like in an online game, with the message, "Yi Feng invites you to join the Shai Feng team. Do you agree?" Lonely shouted excitedly, raising his hands to the sky, as if he had just won a competition. "Finally, I can switch to the attack system." Keelal awkwardly stepped forward. "Our team is still missing a healer, right? I have a friend who is a healer, but he's a divine pretender." Everyone was stunned. Lonely shook his head in exasperation. The divine pretender was a healing class with the weakest healing abilities, ranking at the top of the useless classes list. However, Shai Feng did not rush to make a judgment. He analyzed that while the healing ability of a divine pretender wasn't strong, their health pool was very high. With the key skill, the life cutting can transform the damage taken into healing power. With him, the pressure will be greatly reduced. Upon hearing this, Keelal excitedly chimed in, "Truly the Elder, The invitation to join the team was sent, and the system displayed. Drowsy Sloth has joined Yi Feng's party. From the cloud of dust, a person with messy hair, drowsy eyes yet full of cunning, carrying a simple wooden staff, stepped forward. "Thank you. Finally a team that accepted me," he said. His name was Drowsy Sloth. The group then gathered in front of the large teleportation gate. Drowsy Sloth happily shared his not-so-glorious past. "Previously, I was kicked out by many teams from the Silent Garden, making me want to delete my character and start over." Xie Feng stepped forward to comfort him. "A class has no high or low rank. What's important is the player's skill." Upon hearing this, Drowsy Sloth joyfully swore, "I will prove myself." No one objected, and the team lineup was finalized. Determined footsteps echoed as the group entered the battlefield, ready to face the challenges ahead. "The team is complete. Let's get to work." Someone in the group spoke up. The sky was crimson, the sunset casting its glow over the jagged cliffs where a vicious band of goblins was gathering. Their eyes gleamed with bloodlust. They muttered in their eerie language, laughing gleefully upon seeing the adventurers appear before them. Suddenly, a shrill scream tore through the air as they charged forward. The goblins surged like a violent wave, their eyes burning with bloodlust and murderous intent. The gigantic shield of the mighty warrior glowed bright red, gleaming under the setting sun as it shattered the ranks of the goblins, sending them flying like ragdolls. He flashed a sharp, confident smile, as if this battle was nothing more than a mere game. Then the taunt skill was activated, and a surge of energy erupted, shining brilliantly and sweeping across the battlefield like a whirlwind. Any goblin within range was drawn in, their eyes glazed over, completely provoked by this powerful challenge. In exactly 10 seconds, a violent tornado erupted from Lonely, spinning with terrifying speed. Debris, dust, and sharp swords blended together into a deadly storm. Full wind slash, a mighty technique, cracked the ground, sucking in surrounding enemies into the maelstrom of destruction. But it didn't stop there. As the storm subsided, a blinding flash of light burst forth. Haidzai recited the incantation, unleashing his finishing move, Hellfire Blaze, creating a massive flame that burned all the goblins across a wide area. From somewhere, Xie Feng unleashed smooth yet decisive slashes. With incredible speed, Xie Feng slaughtered each goblin with his finishing move, the Blade Slash. Watching the goblins fleeing in panic from their clashes, Haidzai chuckled and said, "The dungeon today is too easy. The goblins are so scared of us. They've already run off." Many scattered oars were detected on the ground. Qi Law and Drowsy Sloth cheered. "I didn't expect those goblins to drop so many oars. We've struck it rich this time." Suddenly, the sky turned dark and overcast, confusing the two. Why is it so pitch black? A massive armored beast landed with a thud. Countless rocks and dust flew everywhere. Drowsy Sloth panicked and said, "Why is a boss suddenly appearing?" This was a surprise event triggered by a cunning goblin controlling an armored suit with 95% damage reduction, specifically designed to eliminate players who harm its tribe. Haidzai turned to Xie Feng for the next course of action. "Brother Feng, what's the plan?" But all he saw was Xie Feng's wide-eyed stare. "Brother Feng." It wasn't until a moment later that Xie Feng turned and said to everyone, "Run." As they fled from the goblin's pursuit, Xie Feng looked back at all his teammates and said, "Head for the dungeon entrance. We need to get out of the goblin's patrol range." He suddenly remembered an event from his previous life. "In my past life, I happened to encounter a goblin once." Xie Feng recalled the new players as he dove into the fray. "Back then, I brought an elite team to mine ores. After we killed everything, that cunning goblin appeared." Looking back, he felt like a child at that time. "We were so excited because the elite mobs would drop more special loot." However, that thought only left him with a late regret. The result was a tragic ending. Just like that, he and the other players were revived, but all their equipment and items from before were lost. Back in the present, goblins sat in the cockpit, determined to hunt them down. "You think you can escape?" The armored beast immediately opened fire with its machine guns, shooting a barrage of bullets at them. Deadly tracer rounds flew in all directions, making it extremely difficult for them to dodge. Haidzai saw the goblin laughing, and he gritted his teeth in frustration. Damn it! He immediately summoned his staff, turned around, and launched several magic projectiles at it. "You think you're the only one who can attack from a distance." However, the damage it took was only 1 point. Haizi was taken aback by the durability of the armored beast. 1 point of damage. Its armor must be like a turtle shell. How is it so tough? Shai Feng turned around to explain. It has a 95% damage reduction. Most attacks against it are just like scratching an itch. Save some mana, use slowing and control skills on it instead. Got it? With that, Haizi immediately turned around and began fighting the armored beast one-on-one. Using his evil whip skill, Haizi summoned tentacles to rise from the ground and bind the armored beast. The armored beast was immediately dragged down to the ground. While it was resisting, it sustained damage from strange attacks. This immediately caught Shai Feng's attention. The damage was so unusual that it revealed the boss's weakness, its plant-based skills. Realizing the issue, he quickly called out to everyone. "Stop, don't run anymore." Lonely asked him in surprise, "Why aren't we running anymore?" Shai Feng explained, "I just found out the boss's weakness is its plant-based skills. It's time for us to counterattack." He then shared the strategy for dealing with the boss. The plan was simple, just one word: attack. Haizi would use the evil whip attack, while the others were responsible for drawing its aggro. Understanding, Lonely immediately gathered all his strength into his 2 feet. With the charge skill, Lonely lunged forward and combined it with full wind slash, creating a whirlwind that dealt some damage to the armored creature. However, it was enough to stun the armored creature. The second wave of evil whip appeared, continuing to drain its health. It quickly used a saw to cut off its tentacles and aimed at Haizi. He leaped high into the air to grab its attention. "Piece of junk. Your opponent is me." A powerful divine strike hit its head, causing its mechanical parts to start malfunctioning, and Kila raised its aggro even higher. The armored vehicle went mad, launching a series of attacks on him. Although he was able to block them, his health bar still dropped significantly. The damage is too high. Haizi continued to use Evil Whip for the 3rd time. As he ran in, he called out for help. "Hurry and save me. If I take a few more hits, I'm done for." Drowsy Sloth was trying to heal him. "I'm just a divine pretender. I've done all I can." Shai Feng immediately leaped into the air and told Kila, "Leave the boss's hatred to me." He quickly used his ultimate move, Abyssal Bind, summoning chains to bind the armored vehicle. Kila took the opportunity to run away. "Hide, quick." Shai Feng then used Thunder Flash on it, delivering quick and precise slashes. Next, with a power strike, he pierced through its body, contributing to the constant bloodshed dripping down its forehead. Before the armored vehicle could crush him, he released the pull and shot out of the area. The armored vehicle turned around and shot projectiles at him. He quickly used Thundering Flash towards the cliff on the other side. The slashes shattered large rocks, which then fell onto the armored vehicle. With the damage caused, the armored vehicle was quickly buried under the rubble. Haizi laughed loudly and said, "It definitely didn't expect our assassin move to be here. Now we just need to take our time, finishing it off." Suddenly, a small explosion shattered the pile of rocks, and the goblin grabbed a rocket launcher from its bag to escape. "Goodbye." Haizi fell backward in shock. "Oh my god, that monster wants to run." With fiery eyes and a booming roar, Shai Feng seemed to tear through space itself as he shouted a powerful warning. "Don't even think about running." He appeared amidst a mysterious purple halo, firmly gripping his sword, with a series of floating blades hovering behind him. Monsters this quick were rare. The system's high IQ monsters always had an agenda. Killing it would certainly bring unexpected rewards. The 9-dragon slash skill was unleashed, each swing of the sword resembling a dragon stretching across the battlefield. The blades glinted brightly, the sword's path cutting through the air, the brilliant purple light like exploding fireworks. Each slash seemed to touch the very edge of power, creating a scene that was both majestic and haunting. The cunning goblin was struck by a deadly blow, its body shattering in a blinding flash of light, the pain piercing through it as shards flew in all directions like autumn leaves caught in a storm. With its spiky appearance, wearing a shark jaw helmet, it shot through the sky like a sharp arrow, trailing white smoke behind, giving the impression of unstoppable speed. A cold notification board appeared. Akshay Mater has escaped. Shai Feng stared straight ahead with a mixture of surprise and skepticism. Is that goblin Akshay Mater? Akshay Mater now manifested as a giant goblin, wearing shimmering armor with eyes that seemed to gaze into the void. 3 years later, he would create legendary radiance waves that would echo across the countries, build the Goblin Empire, and usher in the era of the rise of the New World. With an innocent face and a stunned gaze, Shai Feng thought to himself, I never expected I almost killed the boss from the future version. Later, Shai Feng and Drowsy Sloth stood in front of a mysterious chest that had just been discovered. Drowsy Sloth spoke, Brother Feng. The robot skeleton only dropped a chest, and an ancient key with intricate designs is floating in the air, radiating a soft light. Beside that, the game interface displayed a notification. Having obtained the Moro key, treasure map, Shai Feng was about to click the first option. His eyes gleamed with satisfaction, as if his efforts had finally been rewarded. This is perfect. Getting this treasure is definitely not loss. Shai Feng faced his team and said, From now on, no rare elite monsters will bother the three of you anymore. 3 of you continue leveling up here, and contact me when you reach level 4. At that moment, Haizi asked, Brother Feng, what about you? With a bright smile, Shai Feng gently tossed 2 golden keys into the air. I'm going to get the treasure. The system echoed like a promise, opening up new horizons for the exciting journey ahead. The image stood out in vivid red hues, with a diamond-shaped stone floating in the center of a magical circle. It recounted the legendary history from 900 years ago, when the alchemist master Maruto created the Sage Stone. This treasure not only had the power to bring the dead back to life, but also became the focal point of fierce battles. Through his research, Shai Feng discovered that the key he held was the very one that unlocked the Divine Temple, revealing secrets still hidden. Under the soft sunlight, a waterfall cascaded down from the sheer cliffs, resembling a silver ribbon flowing through the vast green expanse. This was the level 10 dungeon, the Crimson Water Lake area. The rushing water splashed into the lake below, creating a scene that was both majestic and peaceful. Shai Feng glided effortlessly through the crystal-clear waters, his green cloak billowing with the current, presenting an image both graceful and powerful. From the deep darkness of the vast,